Good evening. My name is Keith Romano. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is January 27th, 2021, and the time is 7:04 p.m. I'd like to take a roll call of the members of the commission and staff present during tonight's remote meeting. Please answer here are present, starting myself, Keith Romano, Lois Spence, who's our vice chair and secretary.
Yeah.
Jim Stewart's not with us. The treasurer, who's our treasurer, Clark Gingras.
Here.
Ross Mastroraco.
He waved.
Wait, okay, BJ Hall.
Here.
Denise Halstead, Inland Wetlands agent.
Here.
Donna Straczynski, our office manager.
Here.
And Sarah Stroud, recording secretary. Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The Inland Wetlands mission statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourse in the town of Monroe. Meeting procedure. In the normal course of our meetings, we'll hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. Due to remote meeting status, I'd like to ask the applicants to keep presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments pro and opposition or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Again, due to remote meeting status, please keep comments or questions direct, or a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It's not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There'll be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during the response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception there'll be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless it's otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes.
I don't have it, Denise, so.
Yep. No, I know. So under item E, other, I believe that's where it goes. Want to discuss 100 Cross Hill Road. And then under G, 12 agent approvals, there's an addition of another one.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, this is the general public participation part of the meeting. If there's anybody in the public that'd like to address the commission on any topic whatsoever, I guess, on anything they want, this is the time. Speak up. Doesn't look like that. Okay, regulated activities, subdivision report recommendations to P&Z Commission, none. Regular meeting, none. Public hearing, IWC 2020-10, 472 Pepper Street, parking expansion and construction of drainage to accommodate runoff.
I guess I'm going to start off. For the record, this is Larry Edwards, professional engineer with offices 227 Stepney Road in Easton. We're waiting to get a plan up. Donna,
You're
is Jason?
for us to put a plan up? Oh.
I can make you presenter, Larry. Is that what you want? Or
No,
do you want
Jason.
Okay.
He's the one that's going to bring the drawings up, and I'll do the speaking.
Okay. There you go.
Jason Edwards. Is everyone able to see that?
I can see it.
Okay. Jay, you want to go to the first sheet? There are the existing conditions. There you go. Can we get that bigger on there? Okay, basically, this site consists of an approximately 10.1 acre parcel. It presently has 3 buildings on the site. The 2 rear properties were built back in the early 70s, and the building closest to the road, which would be to the right of the drawing, or excuse me, to the left of the drawing, was built sometime in the 80s, early 80s. What we are looking to do is to expand the parking area so we can accommodate additional parking and expansion of the uses of the existing tenants in the building, primarily in areas for truck and equipment parking associated with one being the building in the rear being the a landscape contractor, which would be having small construction equipment, and areas for storage of materials, and other outside storage would be in storage containers. We have basically gone through prepared the plans. We've done soils testing to verify suitable areas for septic system expansion. Each of the buildings has an existing system. And that's all been done with under the supervision of the health department, and also done some testing to verify suitable areas for stormwater collection of the parking area. Right now, the site, the existing parking area is paved, but there is no central or controlled drainage for the site. Again, back in 1972 when they were built, they just basically sheet flowed it off to wherever it went. With our expansion of the parking area, we are also going to construct 3 water quality basins, one basically for each of the 3 buildings. Building 1, we're really doing no improvements to, but we have taken and proposed construction of a smaller, we're classifying as a rain garden, to the roadside of that existing parking area, so that we'll pick up that area of drainage and be able to treat that in the rain garden before being discharged out to the wetland. The next building in, we are looking to expand the parking in the rear of the building, basically for truck storage or trucks and equipment parking. And we are proposing to basically install drainage so that we'll pick up the runoff from the majority of the parking. There's a small section to the lower end that goes across the off the site on the south side. But all of the primary and all of the increase in parking area is being collected and will be treated through a stormwater management quality basin located to the rear of the parking. That water quality basin will actually have 2 discharges, because where we're constructing it is at a high point, and originally part of the runoff went to the drainage or to the wetland system located to the front of the property, and the other part goes off to the rear. So we're maintaining that same flow pattern in our discharge from our stormwater quality basin. The third area is to the rear of building 3, which is going to be an expansion of the parking area, and a new area, and then some expansion to the back of the building also. And again, all of the storm drainage from that particular site will be collected and controlled and discharged into a 3rd stormwater basin located to the extreme back of the property. that will discharge into the wetlands just downstream of it. In total, there are, can you go out a little wider, Jay? So we get the whole site. There's basically three wetlands systems on the site. One which is immediately to the front of the property along Pepper Street, and that is behind building number 1. And the other two, one being behind building number 3, is an existing wetland system. And the third one is to the rear of the property, and that discharges off to the north. The activities, basically, we are indicating them in our application as activity number 1, which is associated with the first building, and that is going to involve with the construction of the rain garden. There will be, again, there won't be any alteration to the wetlands themselves. We will be doing work within a regulated area, but there will be no disturbance within the actual wetland limits. Activity 1 will disturb approximately 2,480 square feet, and that's for the construction of the rain garden. And that will require approximately 85 yards of fill to construct that garden. The second activity is the construction of the truck and trailer parking area to the rear of building number 2, and the construction of the stormwater basin, which is going to be associated with that. And that activity involves the wetlands. Again, no altering of wetlands. There will be approximately 0.37 acres of upland review area, which will be disturbed. And they will require approximately 500 yards of fill to construct the parking area and the stormwater basin on activity number 2. Activity number 3 is again associated with the building number 3 to the rear of the site, and that's where the majority of the activity is going to take place in terms of expansion. That will again be construction of a trailer parking area immediately to the rear of the property, and in the expansion of a passenger parking and equipment parking area would be to the north end of the site, and the construction of another third stormwater basement or basin to the extreme extreme north end of the property. In total, that activity again requires no direct wetland disturbance, but will require approximately 0.98 acres of disturbance within the regulated area, and the requirement filling of approximately 925 yards. We have included in the application a detailed stormwater management plan, obviously, to go along with these stormwater basins that we have proposed to construct, and those will basically create zero increase in runoff from the site, and also provide all of the water quality aspects required by the stormwater management manual. We have also included a detailed erosion control plan, which has been designed in accordance with this soil conservation guidelines, and that'll include a number of stormwater control water traps, which will treat the runoff during construction, and obviously siltation fences and other anti-tracking aprons and other aspects of a normal erosion control plan. We have provided some mitigation for the project to help and alleviate some of the disturbance that we are doing in terms of the upland review area. Those include a planted buffer along all of the edges of where the activity comes within close proximity of the wetlands, and that plan is included in the design package that we've provided with you. We are also proposing to install wetlands markers along the edge of that buffer to delineate the limits of the wetlands and the restrictions established by the town in for placing of those markers. And the third thing, it's a little more indirect, but I think is as much of a factor, is that right now, all of the runoff from this site is being untreated. We are providing upgrading of the stormwater system and created a plan that it will treat the runoff in accordance with the stormwater management manual. And basically, we feel that that is a help in mitigation from what the existing conditions on the site are. We have provided two alternatives to you for that we prepared in coming to the issue that we're now proposing to you. And get those up there, Jay.
Everybody see an alternative one?
No, no, this isn't an alternative. This is, oh, I guess it is the alternative. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you bring that up, Jay? I didn't realize I can't. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, this was alternative one we looked at, which basically consolidated all of the development in one area to the rear of building number 3. But again, this one resulted in a considerable amount of direct filling to the wetland, and we didn't feel that this was a viable option. And the second one basically configured in a little bit different, which would create a little less direct disturbance, but still had direct impacts to the wetlands. And we've looked at both of these options, and we didn't feel that they were as good a one as we were presenting to the commission tonight. And even though we do have a fair amount of activity within the regulated area, we have been able to construct it and position the proposed improvements and expansion within the upland review area and maintain, separation to the wetlands. And we feel that with the mitigation of the buffer plantings that we're proposing, that this is by far the best of the alternatives. And we feel this is a good plan for meeting the requirements of the owner and tenants on the site and still maintain a reasonable separation to the wetlands and the best overall proposal for the site. Again, the areas that are the closest to the wetlands for most cases are the stormwater basins. And those will also provide a certain amount of protection because those structures, nobody's going to be able to go in there besides to maintain them. There'll be no reason for anybody to be back in those areas of the site. So that's basically my proposal and our proposal, and we'd be happy to take any questions from the commission.
Okay, start with Commissioner Spence. No, or wait till the end? Okay, start with then Commissioner Gingras.
No questions.
Commissioner Massaraco,
No questions.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes. How much additional asphalt will be put in place here? Can you give me an idea how many yards potentially?
Yeah, if you want to go on, I'll get that material for you as I'm talking. I got to pull up.
It's right on this list right here. I'm like, Jesus Christ, everybody gets the.
Sounds like somebody has that. Oh, do you want me to wait for that or should I go on?
From my standpoint, why don't you go on? I'm just going to look up and see what the difference in it. Just
Okay.
take me a minute.
You mentioned 3 different amounts of fill to be put in. Can you recap those quickly?
Yeah, there's basically 3 areas of filling that is associated, and that is basically the areas to the first one is the stormwater quality basin located to the front of the building. That was approximately 85 yards, and that was just basically constructing the berm for the basin. The second activity, the primary amount of, well, really the total filling of the site on this particular is for the expansion of that parking. It drops off to the rear of the existing building, and we do have to bring that up to grade. So that's going to require approximately 500 cubic yards of material to be brought in. And the third area is the area to, got to go down a little, go move to the side there, Jay. It's associated with the construction of this parking area here. There is a little bit of filling required for the trailer parking in the back of the building, but the majority of the filling is to construct this new parking area to the northeast of the site. And that was requiring approximately 925 yards. So those are the 3 areas, and that's going to be basically clean common fill that's going to come in, and whatever road, the gravel material for the road base and the pavement. So that all is included in that number. So it's going to be a mix of materials, but primarily common fill for grading out the parking areas.
Okay, and that is gravel today, or are you taking out any trees in that for that back section?
Yeah, all 3 of the well, the water quality basin isn't going to take anything, or the rain garden, but the other areas that we're expanding out are all basically wooded, and those are all going to require, here's a aerial view of it so that you get an idea of this. We're in the back building, the third. This is going to, looking straight out behind those cars is where the larger parking lot for activity number 3 is going to go. There is a pile of fill that's there, which we're going to use, but that's, we're including that in that 900 and some odd yards, but there's some of it will come from the site right there, but overall we will need 925 yards for that. And the other area is going to be, again, right behind building number 3, which is a wooded area. And likewise, in the back of building number 2 is a wooded area. So all 3 of them are going to be wooded. So there are going to be some trees that are going to be removed as part of the construction.
Okay, and so when you have that, if I could get the asphalt yardage, that completes my questions.
Okay, I'll get that for you in a second.
Back to you, Chairman Romano.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Now, are the uses on this property going to change, or is it just to build on what's happening now?
It's basically an expansion of the uses that are there now. And John Kimball is also on. He may be able to explain a little bit more with that, but from what I'm gathering, that the tenants that are in there now are the ones that are looking to expand.
Okay. And there's I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question. So are there's any other like variances being asked for, like on this property for this project? Or is it all just straight regulated stuff?
It's basically
Regulated
all
use.
It's basically all approved uses.
Okay.
The only thing we're doing, obviously, we have to go for a special. I'm not sure for a special exception or site plan, but we have to go before the zoning commission for approval.
Okay. The arborvitae on the plant list, why was that chosen?
I wasn't the one that chose that, but I don't know. I'm not going to claim to be a expert in that area. So we'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know. It was a choice of it's actually one of the tenants that's in that building prepared that landscape plan. That's his business and knows that's what he had chosen.
Okay. And then the last thing about the outside storage bins, is there anything, what is the potential product that would be in there?
It's going to be mulch chips, mulching materials, maybe sand and gravel. The typical things that a landscaper does when he's going to a site to install a pool or whatever. So it's not going to be anything, it's going to be for his use. It's not going to be a retail situation. It's going to
No,
be.
I understand. I was just curious to know what was going to be stored in the bins. Because we have I think I recall a similar application a couple years back in the same part of town where the storage bins had to be covered. And I'm just wondering if that is, but that wasn't from us, right? Does anybody remember? Or was that the planning and zoning?
Wasn't that salt or something they were going to be keeping?
I'm talking about the indoor rock processing facility. I thought they had to be covered. But anyways, I was just curious to know if that was in play here. But that was it. I would like to know why arborvitae. I'm not even sure if it's on the list, but if it is, it just seems like an awkward idea to me. But that's all my questions. Go back to Commissioner Spence. You ready?
Thank you. I drove in all the way over the weekend. I think it was within the last couple of days, and the site as it is now looks a whole lot different than what seems to be pictured either on the plans or in the pictures on screen. And I would encourage all of the commissioners to actually request a site walk because it just being there makes it so much different. You can really get a good feel for the place. For instance, that whole side next to the road, just where the road starts to turn, that's water. There's occasional trees and there's water. It's not on the property, but it is something that we need to consider because it is definitely a wetland. So anything that happens around there may affect that wetland too. Now, Mr. Edwards, I believe you said you didn't know what the source was from the piping, the pipe the culvert that goes underneath or behind building 3 and opens up into the intermittent, the waterway that starts, you don't know where that comes from?
No, we honestly don't at this point. But if you look at the overall GIS maps, you'll see that there is a pocket of wetlands on this property here, would be to the south, and it's an isolated pocket of wetlands, and I'm not sure if that's possibly where it comes from. I don't know, but it definitely has been there for a while, because if you go out there, there's rather large trees and everything else that are associated with it. That's just a place that looked like it would logically maybe have been come from at some time in the past. They piped it through there. I don't know, but there's no place that we could find on our own site that there was a catch basin or any other source of drainage that would have resulted in and come out to that point.
Well, the culvert comes in from the west and flows to the east because there's a small head wall, so to speak, of large rocks that go around the culvert. holding it in place. So wouldn't you be concerned about hitting that if you didn't know where it was coming from? It seems to me construction might interfere with that somehow. I don't know, it just seemed to me that you should know where it is and where it's going before you start digging and moving earth around it and building on it. So that was just one comment that I had. And let me see. Oh, I really missed the bar scale on the plans, because our plans are not full size, and it's very hard to try to gauge how big a space is without having a bar scale. So I would appreciate seeing that on the plan. And I see that it's there. Never mind, I just found it. It was not what I was expecting it to be. So my apologies.
Okay.
Let me see. Can you tell me what the toward the bottom of the backs of all of the detention basins, can you tell me what the slope is? It seems to have a very long slope, especially on the northern side.
The northern side, they're both sloped at, most of the slopes we show here are at 2 to 1, which is the standard minimum. And there's nothing that's any steeper than that, because I guarantee the town engineer would have brought it
Oh,
up as a
right.
comment.
Oh, understood. It just appeared to me that the last contour seemed to be considerably further away than the previous ones. And I was wondering if the LOD could be pulled, if that was as far away as it appeared, that perhaps the LOD could be pulled away a little bit away from the side of the wetlands. I'm concerned that you're so close to the wetlands in so many places that I can't see how it won't disturb it in some way or another. Is there going to be any plan for an oil sand separator? You've got a ton of heavy machinery and other possibly polluting materials that are going to be funneled all into the detention basins. But this is, as was mentioned in, I believe it was Mr. Danger's report, this is a direct attachment to the Pequannock River, which is right in the back of the property, up to the side of the property. And I was on the commission and on the committee for the PRI, and one of the things that they were trying to discourage was too much development too close to the wetlands that directly contributed to the Pequannock River. And in this one, you're really accelerating development right next to that lead-in to those wetlands. And I'm a bit concerned about that too. Just tell me where I go. Oh, test pits. I see all kinds of test pit results, but I don't know where the test pits are. Can you show me where they are on the map? Because I could not find them.
He's showing you right there. You have two symbols. The
That's
triangle
what
symbol
that
is your deep test, and your little circle colored in is the percolation test that we're done.
My little circle is about a micron. There's no way I could have found that. Was there one that was in the bottom of any of each of the detention basins?
Yes. I take it back. I don't think there was one done for the rain garden in the front, because it's only like a foot or two deep. So, but the major ones, the one for our basin number 2 and basin number 3 were both tested. That's
In the bottom? Because I'm looking at sheet S1 and I'm not seeing any test pit in the bottom. I'm seeing it.
I just said that. I said the first basin, which is the water quality basin to the front, we didn't do a test pit because it's only a matter of a foot or two deep.
Not that
Um, So,
I'm
we didn't think it was necessary.
No, I'm talking about the one on the far east side of the property. I do not see the one in the bottom of that basin.
Yeah, that's the one he just showed you. It's test hole number E, at letter E.
But that's 4 feet above the bottom.
It's going to be what now?
That's 4 feet, that's at elevation 404, 403, and the bottom of the basin's at 400. So that's a big,
Yeah,
that's,
and the test pit's 8 feet deep.
okay. All right, well, thank you. Now that I know where the test pits are, that does help a great deal.
Okay.
Let's see. On the rain garden, you have the LOD on the north side of the property. Where's the LOD on the south side of the property? How far are you clearing to make that rain garden?
You lost me there. It's going to be, it goes to basically no, it's just going to be a swale coming into the rain garden itself. We're not doing anything close to the wetlands. We put the limit of this construction as a limit toward the wetland side, because that was.
Understood. That's not what I meant. On the north side, how many of the trees that are there now are going to remain? Like, is everything south of the red line, is that going to remain, or is that going to be cleared?
Oh, south, there's no reason for us to be over there. There will be nothing done over there.
Okay, that's why I was asking for an LOD line there, so that it was easy to discern where it was that you were going to stop clearing.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, we aren't intending on doing anything over there, so it's kind of a lawn area there now. It's not, I wouldn't call it lawn, but it's a vegetated area, and the water just runs off of there now. So we were just going to construct the basin where the basin shows, and that's really all we had to do. But we can show that. That's not a problem.
Oh, I said, did you say that there was or was not going to be any further water quality treatment besides the detention basins?
We didn't, but I wrote down on my pad here, we'll look at putting some oil separators in there. I don't think that'll be a big problem. We can do it at the outlets to the 2 primary basins. Again, the water quality, or the rain garden, is kind of, it runs through a swale before it gets to there, and there's not any really heavy activity taking place there. It's really to the rear of buildings 2 and 3 is where the activity is,
Okay. Question, on the north side of the property, heading toward the eastern end, it almost looks like a road. It's a different contour. I'm going to point on it at my computer screen so you can see. It looks like a road. It's the contour directly next to the LOD. It just looks like a road that goes through the back of the property, and it ends up at the LOD. And it ends very abruptly just beyond the shed. What's that all about? Yeah, you've got trees that go up to the end. What's that all about?
that is just showing the planting area. We've shown that all the way along for the planting buffer. That's just the limits of the planting buffer area.
Okay, well, why is it being cleared if it's not being needed for anything? Not up there. I'm talking about specifically on the eastern side.
We're not
That whole
necessarily.
area looks like it's like a 40-foot area, and it looks like it's being cleared, and I'm wondering why.
Oh, in other words, what you're saying is to bring the line back to where the shed is and come around. I think I understand what you mean. No, there isn't anything proposed there. That's just where we brought the line across. So
Okay.
we can revise that line.
That would be good. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the less that's disturbed, that doesn't need to be disturbed, the better. Is there going to be any salt storage on the property?
Salt storage? Is that, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. No, I don't believe there would be. I don't think any, but this isn't that type of operation. And I think if it was, then it would have to be covered. They would not allow that in an open bunker.
Now, there's a lot of containers and that kind of thing. Are they staying or are they leaving?
We do show some containers being proposed along the backside of the parking area here. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 storage containers that he proposes to have in there. Now, I don't know how many he has in there now. I don't think he has that many. But again, that's in a situation where we're trying to keep it inside. So it's, that's not subject to the weather. So it's going to be much more environmentally attractive than leaving whatever it is outside.
Okay, the next one is the planting plan. My next comment. I'm not seeing a planting plan for the rain garden. Do you have one? The planting plan for the rain garden?
You pulling that up, Jay? I'm gathering I don't think there is anything proposed for the rain garden. The planting plan is for the buffer area. It wasn't intended to be a planting plan for the basins themselves. We're proposing the buffer area, and that's what the planting that we've shown is for that buffer area.
Okay, so we need one for the rain garden then, and whatever areas were disturbed that are not disturbed now should have some kind of planting plan attached to them. So I would like to see a more substantial buffer between, I'm going to call it detention basin 1, the one that's behind building number 2. There's only a few little plantings put in there, like 1 tree every 40 feet, and a couple little bushes here and there. And there's quantities, but there's no sizes of these bushes or plants, trees, whatever it is that you're planting. Since there's a lot of upland review area that is being disturbed, I would like to see conservation mix put in so that it can regrow to a decent buffer. So in general, it just needs to be really beefed up, I would think. It's not bad toward the back, although I agree with Keith. I kind of question the use of arborvitae, but if it's a good reason and we knew what the reason was, I guess we could deal with that. And I think Mr. Dancer said there was a Phragmites, some patches of Phragmites, and I was wondering if we could address them. Can you tell me where they are?
Good evening to the commission. Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Let me just give me a second just to get my.
Say your name for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Steve Danzer. I'm a soil scientist, professional wetland scientist with office in Stamford, Connecticut. As you probably know, I prepared an environmental review of this project where I characterized the wetlands. I believe the Phragmites are in the first pocket of wetlands in back of building 1. There's that kind of one quasi-isolated pocket of wetlands. Hold on, I guess Jason's getting the screen up. Yep. In that area, that's where the Phragmites. It's mainly towards, if my memory serves me, towards the southern part of that area, more so than the northern part of that area.
Okay. Do you feel it is something that should and could be addressed? To try to
Well,
make it
I think the best, the spirit of this application is to take a site that has been somewhat haphazardly developed in the past without a provisions to remediate the water quality, and to, in exchange for an expansion, put in some water quality controls. And I think that will help a little bit. But that area back there is not the highest quality of area. It's a rather thin area. It's sandwiched in between the 472 Pepper Street Building 1 and the industrial commercial facility to the, I guess that's north southeast to the west. It receives its source of hydrology is threefold. There's an outlet pipe from that building to the west. There's runoff that comes down the slope from building 1, and then there's runoff that comes in from the road, which I believe discharges through a pipe. So that wetland is basically fed by stormwater of dubious quality. With the advent of this application, at least one of those 3 sources will be remediated. At least part of that water will be going through the water quality that's being proposed. But I mean, it's just not a high quality wetland. I don't think it has any decent reptiles or amphibians. I just don't see, it's just not the type of thing that I would necessarily recommend expending a lot of energy trying to remove the Phragmites. It's, if we were talking about the middle wetland or the wetlands that fringe the Pequannock, I think it'd be a different story, but that one's just kind of like an isolated artifact of the industrial legacy of development.
Okay. We're not usually supposed to differentiate between, we're not told to protect only high quality wetlands. We're just told.
Well, I get that, but my concern is that if you beat back the Phragmites without curing the other 2 major water sources, it's probably just going to come back. That's my concern. Is that the frag is there for a reason. It's taking a beating. It's getting a lot of nutrients from the non-point source pollutions and maybe some point source pollutions, and a lot of sediment coming from the road that's providing its substrate. Unless you can address that, which is not really possible in this case, because for one thing, this applicant doesn't retain ownership over the whole wetlands. To me, it's probably going to be a losing battle over time.
Okay, thank you. On the ENS plans. Back to you, Mr. Edwards. Do you know when all that fill was brought in the back corner where you're proposing the new parking lot that's toward the river?
Supposedly, what I was told was the original builder of these back in the 70s put that material in, and it's been there since 70s or maybe into the early 80s.
It can't be. It's got nothing growing on it. Nothing. If this has to be fairly new fill, and I was wondering if that was just when it was placed there and why. And did anybody investigate the area underneath it to see? It appears to me that wetlands were filled there, and it wasn't necessarily that long ago. And I don't know, filling a wetland is not exactly what we're supposed to be doing without approval. So I will, I just wanted to put that out there. I also wanted to make sure that, actually, I'll let it go there, but I would like to hear Denise's and Scott's comments to make sure that they are addressed.
All right, well said. Thank you, Commissioner Spence. I have a
Thank
couple
you.
more questions for you, Mr. Edwards. There's not an existing gas service on the property now?
There is not gas service now, no.
Oh, because I see
Excuse me,
this thing, it's a gas.
Chairman, it's John Kimball for the record. There is gas service to the first building,
Oh, okay, sorry.
and buildings 2 and 3 do not have gas service. The other, while I'm speaking, Mr. Chairman, if you could ask Commissioner Spence if she could clarify the area that she's talking about, because I'm very confused, because there's been no wetland filling on the property. So if she could point, I don't know how she could point, but if somehow we could figure out what area we're talking about, so we have a better understanding of where her concern lies.
Okay, we'll get back to her. I want to finish my questions first.
Thank you.
John, you're probably going to answer, probably better to ask this to you. I see there's overhead wires and some poles. Are you going to go underground with the utilities as well, the electric and anything else? Because you got like a telephone pole in the middle of the parking spot.
Yep. We're not planning on going underground with the wires at this time. It'd be cost prohibitive. We're addressing the things that we can address, but that would entail bringing in transformers and all new services to all the buildings, and it's just cost prohibitive.
I understand. Okay. And then also over here on like the east side behind building 1, there's 2 things that say concrete covers. What are those?
Behind building 1, behind building 1, there was an old hand dug well. I think that's if it's kind of towards the wetland back there.
Yeah, there's one in the wetlands and then one right off your proposed pavement where by the dumpster.
Yeah, by the dumpster.
Right there. Well, I can't. You're almost there. Right there. That.
Oh, concrete cover. I see that. So then wetlands. That's an old. Those are old hand dug wells.
Okay. That they both are.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they're not being used.
Okay. I think that's all my questions then. Lois, if you want to chime back in.
Chairman Romano?
Yes.
Commissioner Hall here. I have another question.
Sure.
My question is to Mr. Edwards. Regarding, early in your presentation, you mentioned that there was no stormwater quality system in place today. You mean no retention basins? Could you expand on that a little bit of what's there today as opposed to what we're seeing in the picture?
Basically, right now, Jake, you can go to the existing conditions map. Okay, this is basically what the conditions are there right now. Right now, there is all of the runoff just strictly runs off at the low point of the parking areas, and just goes overland to wherever the wetland source it is. So the back of this building just sheet flows off and goes to both of those wetlands, and likewise the back of building number 3 goes off, and this is kind of a low point over here, so it goes into the wetlands there, and it goes off to the, I guess would be the east or the north, into that, where that pipe is. So, as I said, there's no curbings on any of the parking area, and runoff just goes where it goes.
Okay, so no controls today. So the addition of the retention basins is a major step forward.
That's correct. Now, to answer your question earlier, presently there is approximately 1.6 acres of impervious area, and we'll be increasing that by 0.6 acres to 2.2. So those are I think the numbers that you were looking for.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. And that was the only question I had.
Okay, back to,
Romano.
thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Spence, you want to pinpoint to the applicant where you thought you saw wetlands disturbed?
Sure. If you go into the existing conditions survey, page E1, as you head out from building number 3, you can see by the contours that there's quite a hill, which appears to me to have been all fill. And that's I noticed that there's a large rock in the back, and I assume that you're going around that outcropping for the detention basin. But that had nothing to do with the fill. That those are the two large hilly areas that I noticed, and that's just seems out of place. And with nothing growing on it, it just looked like it was fill.
May I address that? It's John Kimball for the record.
Yes.
So Joe Marcelio was the previous owner. They owned a septic company. He and his brothers built these buildings back in the 70s, one building at a time. They'd get home from work and start working on a building. And, you know, as we know, back in the 70s, we didn't have wetlands commissions or regulations. And it's my belief, and I don't know, you know, I can't know for certain, but that, you know, as they did projects or built the buildings, that's where the spoils from the buildings ended up. The current tenants, landscaper, they weed whacked that area because it was just overgrown with weeds and thorn bushes and things like that. But there's been no movement of fill in or out on that area. The parking lot they did refresh with a fresh gravel because it was very muddy in the parking lot, but the parking lot was an approved gravel parking area from the original historically approved
Not all of it.
plan. So I hope that addresses that concern. We're really trying to get this building brought into into this century in terms of stormwater quality and water quality protections. As far as the sand oil separators, we'll have the engineering firm add those to the plans. I think that was a very good suggestion, as was the conservation mix for the basins. I think that's also a prudent suggestion. So but this is really an effort to take something that's a little bit haphazard since the 70s all the way to the 80s and continues to kind of put it on paper, set up limits, plant the trees. I think the arborvitae, to answer that question, because I know it's also lingering, is it's a deer resistant evergreen, provides wind cover and shade, and I think that's kind of why they went with the arborvitae. I'm not sure what the objection is. I didn't think it was an invasive species or necessarily out of place, but but that's my understanding of that that selection.
Okay, so Commissioner Spence, were you done addressing the applicant on your concern?
I think I am. Thank you. Yep. Looks like you hear from Denise.
Okay, so anything else from any other commissioners? Okay, this is public hearing. So is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Oh, record? Sorry. Gonna read this, the exhibits?
Actually, do you want to address, see if Denise has any comments?
Yes, yes, that as well.
Okay, Denise, why don't you?
It's okay. There was a map that I found that was the approval from P&Z back in 1988. And on that map, and I know that I emailed it to Jason the other day, it showed what was the approved limit of disturbance around buildings 1, 2, and 3. And I questioned especially around building 3 because building 3's current conditions far exceeds what was approved in 1985. And looking at that map, I have some questions about, I know the wetlands has been delineated, but thank you. You'll see behind building 3 that the wetlands comes a lot closer to building 3 in 85 than it does presently, which makes me wonder what's really going on back there. Because this was what was approved, and you know, planning and zoning is going to be, I guess, accepting an SCP for the new thing, but you could see that wetland, how close it is to building 3, and there was no gravel that was allowed behind building 3. And also the areas that others were talking about, you know, there's that nice little wetland to the east, which is where we were just talking about all the spoils and everything.
So John Kimball for the record. Yeah, that little half circle that's behind building 3 is actually gravel parking area.
Yes.
Yeah, so when you say there's no gravel that was allowed, but
Behind the building, John.
behind
it,
the building.
north of it,
Okay. All right.
north of it.
The other, you know, the other thing is, you know, it right now, well, two things. One, in 1985, a map that was approved in 95, that was not based on a wetlands delineation by a soil scientist. That was based on USDA aerial survey maps taken from, you know, 10,000 feet. Those are not to be relied on for, even today, they don't, nobody relies on those. They're used as a guidepost as
I'm
to
aware
where
of that.
wetland soils may be, but there's no clear indication that there's wetland soils there. But the, you know, more importantly, you know, what we're trying to do is basically get something approved. We're actually under contract to sell this property, and we're trying to get the property on a solid footing so that when the new owner takes possession of the property, he'll have a clear path to implement to come into compliance with wetland, adding the stormwater controls, basins, and things of that nature, so that the new owner has you know, a set of rules and guidelines to live by. So I think, you know, our goal here, instead of, I mean, the entire site is sheet flowing into the Paquonic River right now. Any oils, water, salts, anything that's put on that parking lot just goes willy-nilly right into the Paquonic River. By adding the detention basins, rain gardens, stormwater quality, sand oil separators, planting areas, we're not only improving the wetland quality future, but also putting up delineation between the active use on the property and the wetland areas by installing planting areas. So that's an important
And I realize that, John, and I know that, you know, aerial wetlands, you know, from views is not what we say, but my point is they have exceeded what was approved in 1985 in terms of the gravel area. I question that a little bit as to, you know, yes, the end result is we want to have things, you know, beautified, but we also want to stay within the regulations.
No, I get it.
That's why that was brought up is, you know, I just kind of there's discrepancies on when the wetlands were delineated. I have a 2016 timeframe. I have a 2017. It's mentioned on a map. I would love to have seen something that told me what the quality of the wetlands was back in 2016 when this was supposedly delineated. And then I do know it was mentioned about we're worried about water quality and volume, and just looking at some of the comments from the town engineer, the volume of the rain garden should not also be used for detention volume. So there are some questions there about, okay, if that's not allowed, how is that going to impact the size of these detention basins in order to appease the controls of water quality that's required? That's
Yeah, let me address that. We submitted this application back in November with a stormwater report, and we got comments on the stormwater report today at 3:37 p.m. prior to this meeting.
Because we didn't have a hard copy, apparently. Everything's been being submitted electronically.
Oh,
So
no, I would actually say that we have a transmittal. We dropped off hard copies. We submitted them electronically. We've submitted them.
I'm not going to get into an argument.
Since this application's been in since November. If somebody was missing a hard copy of a report and needed to do a review in November, I think sometime before this week, it would have been nice for somebody to reach out and ask for it.
And
I
they
think
did, John.
I think it's a disservice to the commission. I think it's a disservice to the applicant. And I'm not saying it to you, Denise, because you were prompt in your review of the application. And but we're really getting tired of getting, and we didn't submit it on Tuesday to get it a week later. We submitted it in November, and the response that we had came at 3:37 today. So we will respond to every one of the engineer's comments. They may change the application, and it's unfortunate that we had to waste time tonight going through this process and have to potentially change it for the next hearing. But that is not our fault and is not the fault of our engineers. And I think there's a long time coming that staff needs to be brought out onto the carpet for giving last minute reviews of plans, because it is an absolute waste of the commission's and the applicants and the engineers' time and money. So I'm sorry, I just needed to put that on the record.
We can't hear you.
Sorry.
I'm not talking. So
My dog was barking, so I muted it when she was barking, and then I forgot to unmute it. My question is, in the what was just discussed there, is there anything that the commissioners here need to consider in that to help move this thing along, or is that something on the town side here?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I'm asking Denise, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this complication that was just brought up, is that something that staff deals with, or is there anything in there that the commission needs to work on?
Well, we're being called out for not being timely is kind of the whole thing. I don't know really how you want me to answer that.
And we'll reference to this map here, right? So that you have
that's on the screen.
Yeah. So
okay.
I'm looking at it going, it doesn't exactly match in one of the little pockets. I mean, what do we do with this?
Well, that was why one of my things is maybe, and this is the commission's decision, is maybe we should have the wetlands delineated, because one map refers to it being done in 2016, another one refers to it being done in 17. I don't know when it was done. I can't look at anything to really know, what was done. But that's just, I look at that stuff, so.
Yep.
Steve Danzer, may I speak briefly
Yeah, sure.
on that issue? All right, understanding that I did not do the last delineation, but what I do have to offer is the observation that my belief is that Bill Kinney went out there and delineated the wetlands. I'm not quite sure whether it was 2016 or 2017. The information that was given me originally was 2016. I've come to learn today that it might actually be 2017. But from my perspective, it doesn't matter. And the reason why is when I went out there to do my environmental review, I also walked the wetland line because I had to in order to orient myself to the site. My belief as a soil scientist is that the delineation by Bill Kinney was substantially accurate. So now we have two soil scientists that basically more or less agree upon this. A day or so ago, I was given through the engineer, through the I guess originally from the staff, a view of this map that is on. I didn't know what to do with it either. I tried to make sense of it. There's nothing on. I'm talking about the 1985 map. There's no reference where the wetland line came from. I know the current owner believes that it came from the soil survey. I actually think it might have been delineated in the field, but I'm not quite sure from who or from when because there's no reference.
Exactly.
I've spent a career of looking at older maps because I started my profession in the early 90s. And my feeling is that anything in the 1980s was probably delineated in the 1970s. So God knows where that came from. It might have been done by a surveyor, which was not uncommon in the 70s and early 80s. So I would move to like basically discount the wetland boundary in that map because there's no way to authenticate that one. What I do know is what's out there now, and I'm familiar with Bill Kinney's delineation. I walked it myself. I understand that there's been some filling and alteration over the years. That's very typical of almost all the sites, especially commercial industrial sites that I've worked on professionally. So that we take into account. There's rules and methods that we use to determine where the wetland line is in relation to the fill, and we make some attempts to just figure out if the fill's been there pre-regulation or not. But the fact is, it's really more related to the depth of fill where we put our lines. It's very possible, conceivable, and probable that as we've discussed, that wetlands originally connected on the on the side of building 3, which would be the north. But I think that was filled years ago, probably pre-regulation, pre-1988, when your regulations were adopted as that area became expanded. So that, that's possible. But under existing conditions now, as a soil scientist, Mr. Kinney made a judgment that area is no longer wetlands. I went out there and I kind of concurred with the boundaries that I saw it. So anyway, so to kind of summarize, we know where the wetlands are. We know where they are under existing conditions. We know that the site has had a thorny history. We know that the history of the site is not atypical of older light industrial, commercial sites. That's pretty much where we are. We have data from now. We have some information from the past that there's no way to authenticate. On behalf of the applicant, I apologize for the discrepancies between the 2016 or the 2017, and I'm sure we can work back with Jason Edwards to figure out exactly what that date, which date was right. But I think at the very end, that's kind of a red herring because I just don't think it really matters to the evaluation of this application at this moment. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that particular issue.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Steve. I just, there's just, some of the dates, it's, looking at different things. I just like to, I guess that's the engineer in me. I like to have, things go back to, if it says it's 2016 here, I want, things to jive. So that was really more of, it wasn't saying, hey, this is wrong. It's like, I just don't know what date's right anymore. So that's what that was about.
Okay.
The only thing now, so I know, like you said, we have no idea where this was. And I know you said Bill Kinney went out and he delineated everything. You don't think that anything, what's there now, you don't believe that it might have been further and filled. Some of it might have been filled. Do you feel that?
My opinion, and I believe that nothing major has transpired in that site since 2016, 2017.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because like I said, my concern is this, wetlands regardless, what was the limit of disturbance didn't have anything to the north of the building. And it's obvious that a lot of activity has occurred north of the building, whether it's in wetlands, but it's definitely in the upland review area. So that's, that's part of another point. So, but you've answered my question
Okay.
and I appreciate it.
Denise,
Thank you.
anything else, Denise, on this?
No.
Okay, I want to ask a question about this, the current, whatever we'll call it, but how much area is impacted by this, I'll call it discrepancy? Can anybody even kind of guess, take a good guess at it? Mr. Edwards, looking at the plan and this map?
Jason, can we pull both of them up to get, or not, really, in order to do it, you got to put one over top of the other.
I
Yeah.
understand, that's why I said,
I
that's why
don't
I
think we
said,
can do it.
I said
in this
best,
context, so.
best guess is okay. It doesn't have to
We can
be.
get that information for you. I mean, we're coming back to another meeting by the sound of it.
But I
So-
just want to, make some kind, not going to be held to it. I'm saying it on the record, that I'm not asking for a number. Take a guess. You scale things with your brain. I'm sure you could
I
probably.
would say, I'm just going to guesstimate the size of the building. Jason, can you get somewhere where we can get the size of that building? Because I would say it's probably no more than the size of that building. Just, by the looks of the two. But if he gets up to the other one, we have the dimensions of that building.
Yeah, John Kimball, for the record, the building is 50 by 100.
Thank you. So
That's fine.
5,000 square feet, which would be basically a little over a tenth of an acre.
Okay, and so I'm thinking of an idea, okay, just to throw it out there. Is there a place where you could, just to get this through and be done with it for you guys, is there a place where you could turn, say, I don't know what the quality of this wetland is, but, create a smaller area, but a good one, and call it good to get, to take this off the table, take the discrepancy off the table? Just an idea. Maybe attached to one of the other wetlands.
I mean, it's something we can look at. It's something I want to take some time with Steve and get an idea of where he thinks it would be best to do. I mean, can it be done? Sure. I mean, there's some place we can do it.
I mean, we could stop the investigation into this, I'm not saying, I'm just throwing out a suggestion. I'm not saying that's what we'll do, but, we could just put an end to this whole research thing. I'm guessing, again, just throwing out an idea. And, make something out of it.
Okay,
Just an idea.
yeah, what I'd recommend for right now is, as I said, we can overlay the two plans, get an idea of the exact amount of disputed area, and then we'll get with Steve and come up with an idea. That's all I can say.
I didn't really pay too close attention on the quality or the grading of the existing wetlands on the site. But if you had, if that was, say, 5,000 and it's kind of not so great, something much smaller but in a higher quality may just work out and put this to rest.
Yep.
Because I did mention that, I want to see if that has, how the other commissioners feel about that. Go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Oh, look at that.
I think
He
it's a good idea to look at that, Commissioner Romano, to simplify this and keep it moving through the process.
Yeah.
We could lose a lot of time with investigation, but what's there today is well known. So I think I would agree with you on that option.
Yeah, it's an option. Please, Commissioner Spence, thoughts?
It doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. There seems to be like there could be an area that's to the north of the piped water course, one that ends all the way down the end of the, where the piped water course begins, there's a wetlands to the north and there's that wetlands to the east. Perhaps in that section, although I hate to disturb anything that's not disturbed now because it's
Yeah.
functioning
Well-
the way it is in a good way and if it's undisturbed. But however, if it is being disturbed by encroaching dumpsters or other things that may have the trucks and that kind of stuff that could be in there. I don't know how clear that area is, but maybe that's a good place to do it. I don't know. It's definitely worth investigation, but I don't think it's going to move things along that rapidly because creating a wetlands is not snap your fingers and it's done. So if that's what you're thinking of, I'm not sure how well that would work.
All right, and then anybody else want to chime in, Ross or Clark?
Let's see, the south side of the parking lot, like there's no plantings in between the parking lot edge and the wetlands, right? So you got the one side where all the arborvitae are planted. That would keep vehicles from driving off the edge because there's no curbs. The other side of the parking lot, there's no plantings at all. You know, what's going to keep vehicles from going a little bit further in for parking reasons?
Well, there is curbs on, this is all curbed now. So there is going to be curbs on all the parking areas. And also there's actually one of the requests of the town engineer in the stuff we just received was he wants to see some sort of a guardrail along some of these areas where we have steep slopes to more for safety factor. But so you're going to have a minimum of curbs and you may have guardrails in some of the areas.
All right, so I guess the next time you guys present a plan, it'll say there'll be curbs, maybe plant sizes also are not on here, and then the guardrails.
Well, the guardrails we just found out about this afternoon.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so that's what I'm saying. The town engineer's comments just came back, but
Okay.
the curbs have been, the plans have always proposed curbs.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that.
And that's actually a requirement of your zoning department anyway. That the parking lots be curbed.
Okay, Commissioner Gingras, anything?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, all right. So Denise, you spoke about your things and we have exhibits for the record.
Sorry about that. Yes, we have exhibits. Exhibit 1 were our inland wetland agent comments dated December 17th, 20. Exhibit 2 was a 10-sheet plan set titled Site Improvements by J. Edwards and Associates. The document was dated September 1st, 2020, revision date January 7th, 2021. Exhibit number 3 was response to inland wetland agent comments by J. Edwards and Associates. That was received January 12th, 2021. Exhibit 4 was stormwater management plans by Larry Edwards and J. Edwards Associates, document dated September 1st, 2020. Exhibit 5 was updated inland wetland agent comments by Denise Halstead, document dated December 17th, revision date January 25th, 2021. Exhibit number 6 was town engineer comments by Scott Schatzline. The document was dated January 25th, 2021. And exhibit 7 was updated town engineer comments again by Scott Schatzline, and the revision date was January 27, 21. And that's all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So back to the applicant. Do you want to say anything to wrap up your presentation?
No, I think we've got some things that the commission has, issues with, and we will try to to go back now and to address these comments and hopefully have an application that you can approve at next meeting,
All right,
or at
great.
least close the hearing on. I'm not saying
Yeah.
approve.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Can I make one more comment before we
Sure.
close it tonight? And that is, one of the things that I noticed and I found kind of distressing. I was hoping that there would be some way to build a protection for this into the plans. The landscaper that's in building number 3, on the containers, he's got a lot of containers in the back. There's trucks and containers. It's pretty crowded back there. There's a large container with what appears to be a liquid of some kind. I'm assuming that since he's a landscaper, he's also doing snow plowing, and that is a freezing preventative or some kind of a chemical that's put on the roads to prevent freezing or to make it melt or whatever the situation is. But it's in the open. It's right next to the culvert that is bringing water, directing it to the Pequannock River. I can just imagine trucks loaded with salt or with some kind of salt compound backing up to this thing and loading up and having spills right next to the culvert. So I understand that this is part of a landscaper business, and this is one of the things that they do, and it's probably a necessary item. But is there some way that we can build in a protection to keep it further away, especially from open water, and to protect from spills and just general messiness? That was a big bone for me. I was kind of distressed when I saw that. So I wanted to throw that out there just in case you can figure out something that might work.
That, okay, thank you, Commissioner Spence. Now, is that more P and Z than us, based on what we learned recently with materials and stuff on site?
No, because it's directly related to the wetlands. Any kind of spillage, it's right next to the wetlands, and it contributes to. So yes, that is definitely our concern.
So we have regulations about bulk storage that say
No,
what's permitted and not.
bulk storage. I'm talking about mostly the distribution of the chemicals. And
Well,
the
that you
storage of the
described
chemicals.
it as a bulk storage. It's a bulk storage tank that was on the ground. So my question is, and we brought up before about salt. The salt need to be covered. So my question is, where do we direct the applicant to what regulation to follow through?
We don't have a regulation for everything. We can't have a regulation for everything. We'd be so cumbered down, we wouldn't be able to move.
Sure.
This is just anything that contributes to pollution of the wetlands. And that would definitely be a contributory factor.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say is, we'd be happy to look into it and find out what it is. And I'm the one that's going to be the controlling entity is going to be deep. What their issues are, if there's an issue with whatever the material is. I don't know if it's a fertilizer or whether it's a salt or whatever. But that's easy enough for us to find out, and we can make a recommendation based on whatever criteria there is established by the state. And yeah, as you said, it's going to be a P&Z is going to be used, so we might as well, we can look at it now. It might be a P&Z issue, but we're going to have to address it then. So
Yeah, this is John Kimball for the record. We will absolutely put a protection measure in place for whatever. We'll find out what it was exactly, and we'll make sure that if there's any kind of storage on site, that proper protection measures are incorporated into the plan for spill prevention and protection of the wetlands, because I do think that is in your purview. So thank you for pointing that out.
And thank you for checking it out. Appreciate it.
All right. So we're ready to move on to the next item. We'll continue this at the next meeting, this application at the next meeting. All right. So I think are we on enforcement?
Yes. I guess, let me see if I could bring it up. And I believe least I thought I saw the person on.
This is
Yes.
number 7. It's NOV discussion, IWV 2020-12, 118 Elm Street, unapproved clearing beyond posted upland review area.
And I believe I saw Mike Daniels, if it's one and the same. So let me see if I could get this up. Don, I can make myself presenter? I guess so.
I believe you can, Denise.
Okay. Bear with me while I try to get the jump drive to open up for me. Oops, oops. Okay. So basically, staff had gone out to do a review of 104 Elm Street was a three parcel lot. It has been subdivided, and staff from one of our other departments had gone out to do an inspection of S&E controls and came back to inform me that at 118, there had been some unapproved clearing within the 100-foot upland review area. There's unapproved storage of firewood within the upland review area. It appears that there was disturbance beyond the limit of approval, and that the property owner went beyond the markers that we have saying this is regulated area and did some work in there. So this is the property right here is 118. There is no house on this yet. It's a buildable lot. There was an existing storage shed that was approved by planning and zoning to be utilized as such once a home is built. Looks like it might be being used. The photos I think will help a little bit. This is a gravel driveway that has been put in that goes back towards that shed. You'll see shed, all this wood. You can see piles of the wood. And there's the lake that's back there, or the part of the river. Here's some more piles of wood. And I'm trying to get to, this is the shed that looks like maybe, it's being utilized right now. Someone's been having good parties. But we have our marker, which I'm trying to get very clearly. Here's the post with our marker, and you could see that activities well beyond it have occurred. So an NOV was sent out to the property owner, and I believe he's here to maybe answer commission's questions.
Okay. That's Mr. Can't see the names anymore because.
Yeah, I know. You want me to unshare, or?
We all have this packet with the pictures, right?
You should, yeah.
I'm looking at it right now, so I think we could take that off.
Okay. Bear with me because I got to figure out how to do this now. People can see your. How do I unshare this?
Well, in the meantime, Mr. Dan.
If you want to stop sharing your screen, Denise, at the bottom, you'll see a picture of the screen.
Yeah, no, this is where I've got the 3 separate things again, Donna.
Go up to your view.
Stop sharing. I just hit stop sharing. It should have. Is everybody back, or?
I still have it on my screen.
Yeah, I still have it.
Oh boy.
So when we lost you.
You can work on, let's have Mr. Daniels start.
Yeah, go
I
ahead
guess,
while
and
I
then
try to
before
share
we
my
figure it out, we
screen.
figure it out. All right, Mr. Daniels, so you could, just to give you a little guide, you could, explain to us what happened and what you plan on doing about it. So
Mhm.
it's your time to discuss or to present something to us.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, basically I bought the property on September 11th, 2020, from CT, oops, my battery. Okay. From CT Houses. And yeah, I'm planning on building my house there, but during COVID, some projects were delayed. So, I was a little reluctant to continue with plans to build a house. So in the meantime, there were some trees that were down on the property, and basically just rented a chainsaw, chopped them up, got a splitter, and split them into smaller logs and made a pile. That's pretty much what we did there. The shed, I put a coat of paint on it just because, I had some rot here and there and I wanted to preserve it. And yeah, I had some tables that I had bought for exterior, just some exterior furniture. There was just like a little side project to restore it and polyurethane it. No one's living in the shed. It's just if I'm there working on my property, I have somewhere to sit, or if I had family to go there, an idea to have a picnic or something there. But that's it.
Okay.
And yeah, basically just cleared up some trees. Some of the trees that were down for a long time, and those ones I just threw in the woods because they were just spongy and wet. But the ones that were still usable, I split up into firewood.
Okay. Is that, where's the silt? What's the story behind the silt fence that's there?
Silt
In the
fence,
picture.
they're part of the 3-lot subdivision. That was what other staff was going to take a look at.
Okay. And that was supposed to still, was that still in effect? Was that? was
I
there still
believe it's
erosion
still in
control?
effect. It's still in effect until this lot and the one next door get built as an extra thing of protection. I could verify
Okay.
that, but I know that they had gone out to do the CO releasing the 3 lots prior, so.
So when I see in the picture, and either Denise or Mr. Daniels could respond,
Mhm.
was that a pre-existing, like, it looks like there's like a little bit of lawn beyond what looks like groomed earth? It looks like it's just green or grass. That was always there?
No, I put down some seed back there.
Okay.
There's
So-
some grass
So,
growing, but it was kind of
I'll be honest with you. What that looks like to us is that you try to convert some wetlands into your lawn.
There you go.
Okay, that's what it looks like.
yeah.
So we're gonna have to, that's gonna probably be something that we're gonna have to discuss. I'm gonna let you finish, and then we'll let the commission, ask any questions that they have.
Yeah, basically there was existing grass growing and I just wanted to fill in the areas that didn't have grass, so I just put down some seed.
Yeah, well, I could tell you just for the future, you should have definitely came to the town and asked, about what you're able to do in that area. And honestly, the signs are there, so it's a hard one. But like, well, whatever. Again, what are your thoughts going to be on how to remedy the situation?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The only thing I thought of is if the town wants me to move the wood pile, I can move it, what is it, 10 feet forward past the wetland marker.
Okay.
I mean, I just didn't see, basically I just dropped the splitter there and I made the pile. I didn't even think about it would be an issue making a pile of wood there. But
Is there
kinda new
2
for me.
piles of wood?
There's there's just that pile there that the big, I mean, you see like I stacked up a pile, but then there was, I made a pile right where one of the trees had fallen. And then some of them I brought the logs up the hill and made another pile.
Okay, all right. Is there anything else you want to mention about this?
No, I mean, I tried getting answers from CT Houses because I know he had to do some infill up towards the street and he didn't want to give me any information. So at some point I just moved some dirt around so I can fill in at the street. And then later on, I guess he continued with what he was doing. He was telling me that he was having trouble getting infill. And then, yeah, I just wanted to get access down there. So I had some gravel and I spread it out there and yeah.
Okay. We'll have some of the other commissioners will most likely ask you some questions about this. Start with Commissioner Spence.
I just wanted to say that I walked this property when we had I walked it with Ross, I believe. And that area between the shed and the water was, if I'm remembering correctly, significantly wooded. It was not just a few trees. And going back through the GIS maps, it doesn't look like it had been badly storm battered. There might have been one or two trees down. I don't know. I mean, there might have been more than a few, but there were a lot of trees to start with. And Ross is nodding, so I'm assuming he agrees. His memory serves him well, like mine. So it does appear that there's more than just a little bit of wood that was removed. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Commissioner Spence, when was that visit approximately?
I do not. Russ, do you remember?
It's got to go back 3 years at least.
Okay.
I would say it's probably three years or so. There was an application that we were pursuing, which is why we walked the property. So whatever the last, maybe it was the subdivision.
That's probably 104 Elm Street before they subdivided to the 3, more than likely.
Probably was it. Do you have a date on that, Denise? Because that would have been we walked it.
I do not have. Well, yeah, possibly. I have the IWC 2018-11, which was for that would have been that whole land, and then the subdivision file from P&Z was 2000.
Okay, so 2018 then. So it wasn't that long ago.
It was 3 years. Yeah.
Is this the one where on the other side we had to do that compensatory thing?
Yes, behind the
Okay.
existing house that was sold.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Continue. I'm sorry, Commissioner Spence.
No, that's it. I just
your
wanted
comment is that
to tell everybody that that's what the situation was when we saw.
okay, Commissioner Gingras, any comments or questions to?
I don't have any questions. I just know that looks like he started developing, landscaping. That's the first thing. Everything comes out. Stop developing anything back there. Don't grow anything. Let it become natural. Do not mow. That's why those markers are in place. So that's you want to clean it up, get all that stuff out of there that you started doing.
Thank you, Gingras. Commissioner Massaraco?
Looks like there's a fireplace in this shed. Nice windows. I don't think it's any of our business what's going on there, but it's like it's like a shed to me.
Well, again, I think what was in the opening of this was that once the house is developed, the shed is used as a accessory structure to the residence. But right. But any comments on how to handle what might be the violation here?
I think it would be a good idea from the wetland markers back. I do remember it being more heavily wooded, a lot of scrubby stuff growing on the ground, and I don't see any of that anymore. Maybe some plant material put in, some wetland type plant material, upland type plants, if that's possible.
Okay, Commissioner Hall?
I would concur there that maybe some new plantings to better restore that area would be advisable.
Okay. Let me ask the applicant another question. At the time you purchased this, which you said was just several months back, right?
Mhm.
Do you have any pictures of the property back there before you took ownership? Was there anything in this when the sales, the sales? I don't know what the words are, but like would have been online if you were looking at this online. Anything you could dig up, so we could see what the condition was, at least at the point that you purchased it?
Yeah, basically what I remember from what I saw online for pictures was just like the water, basically the pond.
Yeah,
That's
my
basically.
question is, can you produce any pictures
I might have
from
some
the point?
pictures,
Yeah, so if it came from the real estate, listing, or from an appraiser, did you have the land appraised?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Just that might be helpful to set a time frame as far as like when you took over ownership. So typically what happens here now is you have two options, and most likely what's going to happen is that it sounds like all the commissioners are going to agree that some kind of restoration is going to need to be done here. Okay. There's no question that this area should not have been touched, at least not with coming to us first. So it's hard to get a pass when you have 3 or 4 signs that, tell you that this is a regulated area. So you have two options. If that's in fact what we're going to go with, you can hire somebody, a professional, to draw up a restoration plan, or you can research and educate yourself and come up with something on your own that the commission will accept. Okay. So you have one of those two options. Our staff in town hall, Denise, will be able to guide you through that if you choose to do it on your own.
Okay.
And now I will probably just panel. So you understand that? You understand what that requires? So either on your own, on your own time, your own way to come up with a plan, bring it to us, or hire somebody.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask if everybody's in favor of one of those two options, just by show of hands, my commissioners. Commissioner Hall, I can't. Where's Commissioner Hall? Mike,
I'm right here.
I don't see you on my
Can
screen.
anybody else see me?
Yeah, I see you.
I
Okay.
see him.
Okay.
He's right below Ross on my screen, below Lois.
Oh, I know they don't match up, but I don't. Heck's going on? Hold on, give me a second.
Try just to view active cameras. Maybe they'll.
Oh, something came over and covered that part. It was right on the line of where the screen. Okay. So did you raise your hand on that one?
I did raise my hand.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
what's
say
that?
that? Can I say that the plan really shouldn't be, there shouldn't be any symmetry to the plan at all. It really should be more looking like, 2-3 years down the road, like it just grew there naturally. No lines. It should be a good assortment of different size plant material. It doesn't have to be big stuff, but it should definitely be something that would normally grow in that area. And again, no symmetry. It's got to look more natural. That's what I would prefer.
Denise, question: is this wetlands and conservation, or just wetlands?
Just wetlands. I did not find anything about a conservation easement.
Okay, so I sometimes forget, but wetlands allows maintenance and conservation doesn't? Or
Well, typically the way a conservation easement would be, yes, you're not allowed to use, you can only do pick berries or things like that. There's no structures,
Okay.
no that sort of thing.
yeah, and this is still well, this is still, then he could actually also, well, can he actually come in for like a post permit for some of this?
Post permit?
Meaning like, get a permit for some of what he had done here after the fact.
Well, but he shouldn't have done anything because
I
it's.
understand that. So
No,
I
I
understand.
don't
It's
get
not
the
like we're
question.
so what I'm saying is if some of this he could have come in, like if, granted, we wouldn't have let this whole probably thing be totally cleared, but if he was trying to make, like I say, he was trying to make an area to do something in. Granted, he doesn't have a building permit yet, so it wouldn't really fly. But if he had a goal to do something that we could have possibly approved as
Right.
a commission, can he add that into, or later on, I guess? I'm just trying to think, if that's a possibility for him.
Can I say something here? The area was already marked with wetland markers. So that must mean that the commission already made the determination that that area was not to be touched.
Well, can we look, could we find that? Like, because
I
the
mean,
markers,
it would have
could have
to
been
be-
a delay,
markers
could have been
put
a
up.
delineation. But does
Right,
that,
when the markers are put up, we put that up saying that's the limit of clearance allowed. Anything
that's-
beyond this is,
well, I understand it. See, there's a violation here. I'm not saying there isn't. What I'm saying is that if you have a wetlands line, like the setback line, you could come, just doesn't mean you can't go to the Wetlands Commission and ask to do something in there.
right, you could definitely go in front of the commission to ask to do something, yes.
Yeah, so, and I'm not suggesting that he make an application to say I was gonna do what I did, because we would, that's not gonna get pious. But if he had some kind of intended thing that he was trying to do, can he also, well, that would be actually what we just discussed, right? Remediation can't blend with a new application.
Yep.
So again, I'm just thinking about the property owner here and what his goals may be. So if he came in for a remediation plan, and then, but there was something he wanted to go to us and get approved, so he could do, meaning, and I'm thinking like, he's got grass in some areas or something like that, or if he wanted to have a walking path, who knows, whatever the case may be. How would that work? Would he come in right after? Or would it two separate applications at the same time? I'm just trying to give him all the options. I'm trying to give him all the options.
I think this is going back to the issues we've been having that we kind of discussed last night with the other, because you don't want to put a development plan with a remediation plan. But then you don't want to have him remediate something if he's gonna.
But could he have two applications at the same time?
Yes, I don't see why not.
Okay, so I want to make sure they understand there's another option for him. Doesn't mean anything. He still has to get through both. So do you understand? You have an option to come up with a remediation plan and make an application for that, or whatever we call that. And then you can also at the same time, I know, I don't remember all the words. I was out snow plowing last night. I'm a little fried. So you could also make an application to us to do activities in that regulated area. Separate application.
Just one thing I wanted to mention. I think Miss Spence mentioned that 3 years ago she had been there and there was more trees. Last March, when I was originally going to buy the land, there was many trees, probably 50 more trees on that land. And then when COVID started, I was really reluctant to buy the property. So I just put it on the back burner. And then a few months went by, and I noticed that the developer, CT Houses, he cut down all the pine trees in the front of the property, and he might have cut more of those trees in the back too. The only ones that I cut up into logs were the ones that were already down on the ground. I just wanted to make that point. I'm not a tree guy or anything. I didn't cut down any trees.
Well, the other thing I'll let you know, Mr. Daniels, about how these things work. When you buy the property, you inherit the violations. So you could actually have a nice, conversation with the person you bought it from, if you can, if that's in fact what happened. But when you buy property of violation, it belongs now to the new owner. Unfortunately, but that happens quite often.
Yeah, and I wound up paying an extra 10 grand because he cut those trees down.
Now I do know.
100,000. I paid 110 because he said that's what it cost him to cut all the trees down. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I do know, and I agree with Mr. Daniels that there were, I don't know if on his as much, but I know on the side where 104 is, well above the upland review, there was a cove of pine trees, and I think Mrs. Darcy, I think is her last name, she called to find out. She was well beyond the upland review area. She had a bunch of those pine trees, the big tall trees had started to fall. So I know that she had taken some out, but it wasn't in our regulated area. So I don't know if maybe that's why the other person went and did it on Mr. Daniels' property, because she was doing it, but she was outside the upland review area. I do know that.
Okay. All right.
You know, who knows what they did to your property.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate. I would like to make a suggestion though. If you're going to try to do it on your own, consult a professional, because we really prefer native plants, non-invasive plants. Like everybody loves burning bush. No, 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 no burning bush. We try to keep it as natural as possible. And so you might want to consult a professional, a landscape architect, or somebody that's very, very well knowledgeable about that. Because we would need like a plant list of the kinds of plants that you're planning on putting in and where they're going to be put. Just trying to give you some guidance. We do like to see some buffer between the water and the property of, I'm not sure, I can't really throw out a number, but we do like to see a pretty significant buffer to protect the water from whatever is going to drain off the lawn or whatever that area is. And like Ross said, a combination of plantings that isn't too regimented and is more like what was there. And I feel very bad for you that this guy did this to you. That's really lousy. And it is unfortunate that you inherit this mess. But
See all those trees go down. I like some privacy, you know. Now it's all clear, the whole front of the property. It was probably at least 50 trees in the front that he
I remember it was very well wooded. So
yeah, no one even knew the cabin was there. A lot of people drive by and say, "Wow, I didn't even know there was a shed back there." It was just wooded.
You wouldn't know there was a shed back there. You're right, because it was pretty well.
I heard that was built in 1790. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know. Yeah,
Nice looking.
Yeah.
All right.
So whatever you would like to do with it, besides the remediation part, that, bring it to us.
Could it be fruit-bearing plants like blueberries or raspberry bushes?
High blueberries, yeah.
There's a list, Mr. Dan. There's a list that's of plants that some of them sometimes we have some issues with, but typically anything on that plant list is considered approved for the area. And then if you could, if you want something a couple things differently, I mean, you could certainly ask for it.
Okay.
But generally, you're going to work off of that, primarily going to work off that list.
There is a link on our site, Mike, that takes you to state of Connecticut, like plantings that are allowed, like wetland type plantings. Or call me and I'll try to direct you on how to find, a good variety, a good list of variety for you.
Another thing to help if you plan on doing this yourself is you may be able to get from, I don't know, maybe from Denise, some other similar plans that were approved so you can see how they were presented. Because you have to, there's a bunch of like things you have to kind of meet. Like there's boxes that need to be checked off, so to speak, to give us a plan that we could approve. You could draw a plan and it does, but we're going to add, there's going to be a bunch of criteria on it. So you could see how some of the other submissions have been done. And we've gotten some, I think we've gotten some that have been kind of like sketches on a survey, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So you could start with the survey that came with the property.
Hopefully you have a survey of the property. I don't even know if you got one, right?
Based on that guy, your guy bought. But anyways, you can start with the survey as your template, right?
Yep.
And work off of that. So there's just going to be certain things we're going to see. We want to see a plant list, and Denise will go through that whole thing with you.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to help you. Just contact me.
The only thing we ask, sorry, with that, don't drag this out. You know,
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna, you know, we'll probably want to ask, what do we think we want, when do we want to see Mr. Daniels back? What do we normally give a violation?
Usually about 60 days, I think.
That's
Yeah, I was thinking
If it's
2 months.
within 60 days, then he has enough time after that to plant and prepare, because
Mhm.
then spring is coming eventually.
Yeah.
And, that might be a decent time frame.
So March 24th is like 2 months. That's the night of a meeting.
Okay, so you have March 24th, Mr. Daniels, is when we're gonna expect you to be back at the latest. Now, if you want to start on this and come to the next meeting, ask us some questions, you know, as you're moving along on it and get some input, absolutely fine. We will do that for you. But you have 60 days to at least get back to us with something.
All right. Yeah, I'll start digging into it right away. No pun
Right.
intended.
No more digging at 118 Elm Street
No.
without a permit.
Exactly. I learned my lesson.
All right, thank you.
All righty.
All right,
Is that
now
it?
yeah, that's it. We're
Yep.
all set. Thank you.
Yep, thank
Have a
you.
good evening. Thank you.
Okay, remediation submissions, IWR 2020-02, 224 Guinea Road, remediation plan to remove fill and replant the wetland area. Which one is
Dave,
that?
yeah, there he is.
Oh, Dave, that's right. You're muted, Dave.
That should be better.
I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Dave Bjorklund, president of Spath Bjorklund Associates, and I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut. This is 224 Guinea Road. Talk about a violation that this applicant had 15 years to respond, I think, as opposed to 60 days noted in the last application. We are proposing, to do a remediation plan. The piece of property and the wetlands on the property and the adjacent area, all the regulated area, years ago when the home was built, was the area was excavated, all the trees were removed, the wetlands were filled, and there's really no remnant left there that represents what was there previously. This is a total reconstruction. What we had done in the past about 5 years ago is we went out and we dug some test holes. We found the original wetland soil anywhere from 3 to 5 feet down, right in the area where we had originally had the wetlands mapped. And what we're proposing to do, and we got into this a little bit at the last hearing, was to excavate the soil and replant the area. The excavation and the replanting is going to be done under the supervision of Davison Environmental. The only way this is going to work, because we don't know what's under. We dug 3 test holes throughout the wetland corridor. We know where we found the wetland soils, but we don't know exactly, once we start in there with an excavator, what we're going to find. So we're planning on having this being supervised by somebody from Davison the entire time the process is going on and in the planting. Mike Klein is on with me this evening. He's with Davison, and they have developed the planting plan. And I'd like to have Mike get into the planting plan and exactly, how we're going to approach this, because the only way this is going to happen and the only way it's going to work is to feel our way through this in the field. Mike?
Yeah, this is Michael Klein. I'm a biologist and a soil scientist. My office is in West Hartford. Haven't been in front of this commission recently, but I've been here many, many times in the past. Dave is correct. This area was completely excavated. I believe my office marked the wetland boundaries here originally. I'm not 100% certain on that, but when we became involved with this quite a few years ago, when the violation was first uncovered and an order was issued to the owner, there was a vineyard that had been planted there. The area originally was a rocky wetland corridor, narrow drainage way, if you will, the typical Ridgebury, Leicester, Whitman wetland that we see in Monroe, in the upland areas all over the place. And as you can see from the plan, it was pretty narrow. Maximum of maybe 50 feet wide at the southern end, and narrowing down to almost nothing at one point, and then widening back out to 20 or 30 feet wide as you got further to the north. The grades have been substantially altered. The rock on both sides has been completely removed. There's really no opportunity to restore the entire original landscape, but because this swale was deeply incised, what was done there was they cut the rock off on the top and then filled in the low area. So it's there below grade, as Dave said, 3, 4, 5 feet. So the plan is to will be present on one of the soil scientists from my office, either myself or Eric Davison or Matt Davison probably will be there during excavation as the overburden is stripped off. Once we get down to the old topsoil horizon, because luckily it was never removed, at least in the areas where we dug the test holes. Once we get down to the old topsoil horizon, we'll stop excavating, create a stable slopes along both sides, and then seed it and restore it with plant materials. We've on sheet 2 of the plan that we prepared includes a plant list. We've got red maples, shadblow, black chokeberry, winterberry, and northern arrowwood proposed. I believe it's a little bit more than 100 woody plantings, and then we've got a seed mix specified as well. Those plantings will be installed in randomly distributed, but in groupings, as we would typically see in a wetland. It's not designed to be installed in any kind of a aesthetic pattern or anything like that. So that's what the proposal is. We've identified, as I said, 4 woody shrubs and typical red maple trees to be installed there. It's not. We saw the comment from staff about identifying specific locations for specific plants. We don't think that that's productive for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that this isn't the wetland nursery industry is not the most mature industry in the world, and some years some of the plants are just not available, and we have to make substitutions. The second reason is that if we hit some large boulders in some of these areas at the wetlands, typically this is a kind of a wetland, has a very rocky substrate. We're not going to plant a shrub on top of a boulder or a tree on top of a boulder, so we're going to have some flexibility to move them around. So I guess this plan is more detailed than conceptual in nature, but to specifically identify within those shrub mass locations each individual plant where it's going to occur just doesn't provide any additional information, because they're going to have to be located in the field. And as Dave mentioned, our office will be on site during the regrading and during the planting to get the plants in the right places.
Thank you, Mike. What I'm the way I'm working my presentation is I'm going through Denise's last review and looking at E. What Denise's comment is, it appears all work to be done within the area surrounding the wetlands and outside of the conservation easement. If any work to be done in the easement need descriptions, since typical conservation easements do not allow for any filling, cutting, or disturbance within the easement area. Denise and I had a conversation this afternoon on this point, and what we were able to confirm during this conversation is that the conservation easement map indicating the limits of the conservation easement was filed. However, no instrument was filed with the conservation easement. So we have a map with a conservation easement delineated on it, but we have no idea what the conditions of the easement are. This presents an interesting question, and the way Denise and I discussed it this afternoon is I think it's something that we have to discuss with the commission's attorney, and how do we move forward in this type of situation. And it may very well result in that conditions are put on the easement area going forward, but as we sit here today, we have an easement with no conditions to it. My guess is that the intention when the commission approved this originally was that the town standard conservation easement, which they operated with for years, would have been filed concurrently with the map. The map also showed a driveway easement and a CLMP easement. Those instruments were filed. The conservation easement was not filed. So I think on that number, I think we'll have to, between now and the next meeting, or in the near future, have a conversation, with the town attorney and see exactly how we handle this situation. Denise thought that the commission had a similar situation in the past, so there may be an example out there that we can use to go forward. With regards to the 2-to-1 slopes, again, this is something we're going to have to feel our way through as we look at the area as it's been filled. If you look to the west of the wetland area, that's an area that it's been excavated right down to bedrock, and there's sharp slopes. And I think on the west side of the wetland, we're going to have to slope up at 2-to-1 because we're going to very quickly run into this rock that has been exposed. Going to the east side of the wetland, there will be no need for the 2-to-1 slope. We'll be able to be much gentler than that. And what we'll do is we'll just take it out and blend it into this. This is all a lawn area as it sits here today. So I think, we'll be able to blend at a much milder slope going to the east. G, we did discuss last time. I personally and professionally don't think adding topographic information to these plans is going to add anything, because at the end of the day, we're going to excavate until we find the old wetland soils, and they vary in depth based upon how much fill was put over them. So, this is going to be, we're going to be excavating when we find the fill. Davison Environmental or when we find the wetland soils, Davison Environmental is going to say stop, and we'll start to pull away from the wetlands on both sides. We do know where the wetlands were originally. We can reproduce those on the ground, and they were originally flagged by Michael Klein back in, I believe, 96 or 97. And we'll, as I said earlier, we have to feel our way through this reconstruction of this wetland area. Based upon, moving down to I now, Based upon the original violation report, at the south end of the wetland area, there is a pond. And at the north end of the pond, a lot of large boulders were placed there. And Commissioner Spence, your memory is excellent. There was a cistern that had been installed in that area. And it's kind of nested in with the rocks. It's our opinion that if we start pulling those rocks away, I mean, those rocks have been there for 20, 25 years, and they're large. And the cistern, you know, is comprised of 36-inch pipe that is stacked up. My employee, when he went and he looked at it and removed the cover from it, he couldn't see the bottom. He didn't have a flashlight, but he said, Dave, it's deep. Our proposal would be that we're going to do more damage than good if we start removing those rocks in the cistern. For the cistern, it hasn't been indicated on the plans, but I think the best way to handle it would be to just fill it with smaller field stone and just terminate its use. Would be the best way rather than removing it. You know, most of this pond is not on the Ferrera property. It's on the property to the south. And, you know, I just think that we're going to make a mess that the pond doesn't need to sustain any more excavation around it. The area is stabilized. There's been plants growing there. So that's our offering on that area and on the cistern. Yeah. We have noted silt fence on the plans. Again, the erosion control plan is going to be just like the excavation. It's going to have to be shifted daily, depending on what the what the field conditions are. That concludes our presentation. We'll be glad to answer any questions.
Right. I'll start. Dave, is the material that's being dug out, is it staying on site or being hauled away?
Ultimately, it's going to have to be hauled away. It's going to be a lot of material.
Hey, we got a place to dump it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's hey.
I think a lot of us could laugh on that one, right?
I got a spot too. So, anyways, now on the, so I'm in favor completely with giving us a mass quantity of plant material and then having it placed as required by the, you know, Mr. Klein that's going to do that. Totally fine with that as long as the numbers are there. I think hopefully everybody else would agree to that, make that a little bit lighter for you guys. And also, the other thing I was going to say, and also, yeah, as far as erosion control goes, if, you know, if every single day there's going to be a soil scientist or, you know, Mr. Klein, I guess, you could certainly, you know, at the end of the day, assess what your erosion control needs are going to be and do what's required. Like if, you know, I understand what you're saying. You put some silt fence in and you got to take it out the next day. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know how we could present that in the plan, but I would be okay with that. So instead of specifying something specific, just say that, you know, through the professional on the job, they'll assess on a daily basis erosion control needs. And they kind of come, I guess, responsible maybe. I'm not sure how to say that. You know what I mean?
Well, I think, and we can add a note to the plan. You know, this is not a water course. You know, this is a very, as Mike said, a very narrow wetland network. And as it flowed out of the pond, it actually flowed to the north. The wetland mapping never reached the property line. It stopped short of where the existing driveway is. So, you know, this was not we don't have flowing water here, and I think we'll be able to, it'd be a whole different situation if this was a water course that had been filled in. But no, we can add a note to the plan that will indicate that.
That's all I have at this moment.
Let me just volunteer. So we don't plan on leaving Denise in the dark on this.
Yeah.
We're hoping that she's going to be out there on a regular basis, you know, with somebody from Davison, you know, keeping an eye on this.
And what is the time frame that you propose it's going to take?
This is going to have to be done in the summer.
Yeah.
It's not something you want when you're up to your knees in mud.
But if you're in the dry time, what do you think the length, the duration of the project will be, providing weather's good?
Yeah, I think this is a 30 to 60 day time frame.
Okay. All right, we'll go through the rest of the commissioners. Commissioner Spence, you want to go last? First. Go ahead, Commissioner Spence.
You're muted, Lois.
Sorry. That was a good presentation. Thank you very much. You covered quite a bit of material. It was great. And a lot of questions that I had previously. In looking at the plan that what used to be the pool, or is currently the pool, and not going to be, there's a note on the plan that says pool to be removed, graded, loamed, and seeded. Now that sounds like lawn. Can I ask what the seed is going to be that's going to be there? Because you also mentioned, Mr. Klein, that the seed mix was called out on the plan. If it is, I can't find it. So what are we talking about? A conservation seed mix, a wetland seed mix, upland? What are we talking?
It would be the New England wetland plants wet mix within the limits of the wetland area, 1 pound per 2,500 square feet. And we would use the conservation wildlife mix, which I believe is 1 pound per 1,750 square feet, but I want to double check that.
The other thing is, you know, we do propose plantings around where that pool area is presently.
Oh, yeah, it's right here on the. It's on the plan. It's on sheet 1, about the middle of the right-hand side of the page, just above the soil test pits. All restored wetland areas to be seeded.
What sheet?
Sheet 1. This one, site
Oh,
plan.
okay.
Right-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4th, and 5th up from the bottom of the list of notes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was right.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was looking for it in the planting plan, so I missed it.
Understood.
I apologize.
No problem.
Do you expect any pooling of water at the base where it meets up with the pipe? Like in a heavy season or something? Do you expect any pooling?
There could be. The watershed is really very small. I think the narrow point is more or less where the break in grade was. Let's see if I can look on the original topo. Yeah, the southern third of this drained to the south to the ponded area, and the northern 2/3 drained to the north. So the watershed is very, very small. After a heavy rainstorm, there might be some flow in here, but I wouldn't expect any significant flow. What we would plan to do as we excavate out that material, and there are, you know, moderate sized stones and boulders, we would recreate that rocky swale that was originally present. If there aren't a lot of good sized stone there, then we might need to put down an erosion control blanket and just to hold it in place until the seed germinates. But we wouldn't anticipate any significant flows.
Okay. Is that still the case? Does it flow south I'm assuming by cross section B, that line, is that where the line of demarcation would be as to where it changes direction?
I'm sorry, I heard the last part of what you said, but not the first part. There's a very
Okay.
narrow point in the wetland.
Right, and you
Yeah, it
said it
says high
changes
point.
direction of flow at that point, and up to that point it flows south, and beyond that it flows north?
Yes,
Is
at
that
least
going to be the
originally
same?
that was the case. The original
Okay.
topo, that was the case. And I believe there's a, yeah, high point is indicated on the plan, just north of test hole 52.
Right. Now, is that going to be recreated, or is it all going to flow south, north now?
No, I think
I'm just curious. You're the professional. I'll leave it in your hands. But I'm just curious as to which way it'll be going.
the grades are generally flat from that high point to the south, but I imagine there would be we would grade it out so that it was just a very slight grade to drain to the south, and that, so we would try and recreate the original drainage pattern as much as we can.
Okay, good. That's great. Do you have a plan, or is there a plan for wetland markers and conservation markers? I don't see anything on the plan, but as we all know, just because I don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there.
Well, I think we missed that. We'll revise the plan, seeing as we know we're going to be coming back with some kind of a report on the conservation easement. We'll note the markers.
Okay, that would be wonderful. So we're also going to see if we can come up with some conservation language, easement language rather.
Yeah, I think as Denise and I talked about it this afternoon, first off, I think we have to establish the validity of the easement. It's just on a map that's recorded, and then do we move on from there, with easement language? I don't know. I think we both decided this afternoon we have to hear from town council.
I don't know if the commission remembers when we had a person on, I think it was Fan Hill Road violation, and this is when town council was still Vin Marino. And they were there, the fellow was selling the property, and majority, there was a big area that was a conservation easement, but it was not in his deed or anything. We found it only on a map.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Vin making some sort of statement that, while it was not in a deed, the map superseded and there was something. I've got to try to figure that out. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
Alrighty.
So I know that we were in this type of situation one other time.
Right. Sounds right.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a I wouldn't say conundrum, but there's not the ability to do this work has to be accommodated, and in some ways it's a benefit that the language was never posted, because if the language was posted, it would somehow have to be modified
right,
to allow for this restoration work to occur. But certainly I'm sure that's something that we can work out with the town attorney.
it was weird. The map actually had it mapped out with meets and bounds, which Dave and I were just like, okay, and that's farthest it ever got.
Okay, the next question is for Mr. Klein. The cistern that is there. Now I had heard, now this is strictly rumor, I'd never looked, and that pool could possibly be a vernal pool. And does the existence of the cistern create challenges or any kind of detrimental effect for wildlife that could be in that vernal pool, if it is a vernal pool? And in your opinion, the best thing to do with it is to fill it with rocks? And does its existence create any challenges with the wildlife in that area?
Actually, it doesn't. It's if my understanding is it's reinforced concrete pipe to something as small as a wood frog or a salamander that's plenty of grip to crawl in and out. There are plenty of salamanders. There's northern spring salamanders are very frequently found inside old wells and so forth. So it's not a challenge, but certainly I think that from a safety standpoint, filling it with inert material would be the right way to go.
Well, I'm not saying we should leave it there. I think it's great that it's going to be filled in. So I'm hearing you correctly that the other side, the western side of the wetland, is pretty much history. It's all rock now and be completely denuded and is beyond help.
Well, it's an area outside of the original wetland limits, but it's really close to the original wetland limits. So if we end up taking 3 or 4 foot of fill out of there, and that landscape just wasn't there previously, I think we're in some areas, especially more on the southern portion of the property, we're going to end up sloping up from the wetland pretty quickly. As we proceed northerly, the rock isn't there, and but there still is a steep slope there. But there's some features there now that just were not there in 95 when this was virgin territory.
Okay, I think that's it for my questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Spence. Commissioner Gingras, do you have any questions?
No, she asked the questions I was looking at. So. All set.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Mastroianni.
No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
No questions. I'm good with it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we're on a remediation submission. So what do we do next? I'm so lost right now.
So this is getting continued to the next meeting, is that correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
so
Yes.
we're done with this.
Do you have to read anything into the record?
No, because this is a remediation and we can just continue on our way to item D.
Okay, so we'll continue on to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You're welcome.
You too, Dave.
Application hearing determinations, none. E, other, we start with the 100 Cross Hill Road.
Okay, 100 Cross Hill Road. I could put some photos up, but let me just give you the history. The property owner called me. In the front of his property, he has, it's not a delineated wetlands, but it's a pond, and I've seen it filled as a pond. They want to continue keeping it as a pond. What has happened over time is during the last windstorm, for some reason, it's kind of losing its water. So he would like to know, is it possible that he could enhance it, do some work around to keep it as a pond? And if you want, I took photos of it the other day, so you could kind of see how it's low. But the area, I saw it in the winter the first time, and it was pretty full. They almost have like a standpipe. It's almost like a high level overflow because it's right near the driveway. So if it got to that level, instead of going across the driveway and icing it, it would go into the high level overflow, eventually into the pipe that's in the catch basin, and then that water would whisk off site so that it didn't ice the driveway over, but still contain the water in this pond area. Right now, the water is very low, and you can see the white structure that's sticking up out of the ground. And what I will do is let me make myself presenter, and I could at least show you the pictures of the front of the property so you can see what I'm talking about. But he wants to do something. I didn't know, would it be a inland wetlands application? How to even tell him to proceed on this, because this is a little bit different. He wants to keep something, as opposed to sometimes we have people with other issues. Discussion.
So the gentleman wants to enhance the pond, obviously make it function better. Do you have
Correct.
any inclination of why the water's coming out? Did some of the berm or something get torn
Well,
up? Or
can you see my screen?
not yet.
You can't see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. I don't know why it's not. Okay, now you should see it. Can you see
Yeah.
the photo right now? Okay. So you can see that it's the way the topography is, it's kind of like a channel that leads to this one area. And that area, I've seen it filled as a pond. During the windstorm, they had some trees come down. He feels that, and I'm looking at this, that white structure that to me acts as like a high level overflow was not straight. It was kind of at an angle. I don't know if somehow something happened that the pipe, some dislocation of the pipes or whatever, and so it's somehow leaking out because the water is going to the catch basin, and that's why this pond is low.
Yeah, he could have had the fitting could have came. It looks like a 90 at the end of a 8-inch pipe. If it came loose at the bottom, certainly could have let water in.
Let's see, can I make this? Oh, shoot. Here, can you see that a little bit better? I'm trying to make, I'm trying to move you guys around on my screen and I'm losing you there. So yeah, it's cocked for some reason, and I don't know if that's the problem. My screen is not happy here.
Well, if he were to investigate that overflow, and get that fixed, that might solve the whole problem.
Right, but so my question, is, maintenance sometimes falls under a permitted use as of right. If he wants to put more plantings down and things like that, would that be a permitted use as of right? Would we have to put this as a actual full-blown inland wetlands application? Would you maybe look at this as an agent approval? That I really didn't know how we wanted to look at this type of work. Because you could see in the photo it's on now, you could see some of the higher plants and you could kind of get an idea of how big this pond was.
Okay, now, is there any historical photographs from when it was full?
All I
It
could
kind
do,
of looks like a low area just fills up after a rain and eventually perks
exactly.
through. It doesn't really have doesn't look like to me a drained pond. There's grass in there and stuff.
That looks like it's sloping away all the way down to the road.
So what I did is this is an aerial from 2020, and it's very hard to see, but this is the area, and you could see the water right here.
No kidding.
So, and I have seen it full. There's a wetlands behind his house that seems to meander, and there's a hill over here. So the water sheets out from, what is that? He's Cross Hill. What's this one? Moose Hill, I guess. So the water kind of comes down there. Everything works into this depression, and they like the idea of having a pond there.
Okay. Well, what I guess happened is that pipe under the driveway, maybe not broken, but what happens is sometimes if they don't really do a good job of packing material around the pipe, the water will find and make like a path, uses it as like a little bit of just to sneak in, and then it just does a little more. So it's possible that the pipe is actually kind of like when they say you can't have rooty plants in a berm on a detention pond, because the roots actually allow a little bit of water to get in there eventually. So that could be kind of what happened. And I would suggest he start very simply by packing the end of expose a little bit of that pipe and just pack it with some clay type material and kind of do like a natural water plug and see if that helps.
Okay, but
so I understand the question is, how do you want to handle this?
See, that's the problem.
Agent approval.
Yeah, I think it's an agent
So you feel
approval.
it's an agent approval. It's not so much, because I was like, it could almost fall under permitted use as of right in a way. So that's why I wanted your input.
Depends on how much further he plans on going. When you talk about enhancing a pond, does that mean he's going to dredge it out a little bit, or does it mean he's
No,
going
he wants to put new plantings. He wants to beautify it. So enhance it in terms of putting some better plants around it to.
Well, I would suggest just have him check out the pipe like Keith was saying.
Yeah.
And see what happens and come back to you with what the result is. And then maybe we need to take it in steps and take it from there. If the pipe is not breached and the pipe is functioning the way it's supposed to, then there might be a different animal.
So he could investigate the pipe without having any sort of permitting associated with it.
Yeah, it's already.
Agent approval, I agree with everybody else.
Yeah, agent approval. There's also the possibility that something changed in the area and something happened with the soils, plant growth. There could have been some kind of gravelly area underneath that was kind of sealed off, but then something made its way through. It's an awful big difference from that picture.
Well, and that's why, I mean, I went through the photos I had of this property in the past when I was there for other stuff, and I never had it was a winter time, so you couldn't really see the limits of the pond. And I went out there yesterday to get the picture, because he said, you'll see now that it's really low, and he wasn't kidding how low it is. And that overflow does go to the catch basin he has right at the edge of the driveway, and I understand why he has the catch basin there, because his driveway gets covered over and iced.
So let me ask you this, Denise. Was the water level at the bottom of the pipe, or was it below the bottom of the pipe?
It was roughly kind of at the bottom of the pipe. Let's see.
So there was still significant water, because in the picture it almost looks like it's dry with like maybe just a little bit.
Let's see if I could get to the next picture. So it's not a good view of it, but it's almost even with the bottom of this pipe. But you could see that, at one time the water would be at this level, and that's how it would feed into that,
Absolutely. Now, did you see active water flow?
Yes, I could see water flowing in this direction. And, so right now there is water flowing, and I looked in his catch basin over in his driveway, which is, over in this area, and, obviously I could hear water flowing. You could see water flowing.
Could you see water coming out of the pipe?
I couldn't see water coming out of the pipe, but, with the catch basin, I just couldn't fully see that pipe, but you could see water, and you could see it moving out of the catch basin. So, something was going into it as well.
So if water is coming, so if he could get in there and find out I just, throw this out when we talk to him.
Yeah.
If water is coming out of the pipe, like literally out of the pipe and into the catch basin, then he's got something broken or
something
separated.
Here has to be.
Yeah,
right.
Because it won't, if it's getting into the pipe, it's not getting in the way they want it to. So that would be part of the issue. It wouldn't be what I said earlier, as where the pipe kind of created a little pathway.
Right.
That would be if the water's coming around the pipe or coming out underneath the pipe, like in the box of the catch basin.
Yeah, see, I didn't see any water. I didn't see any water around this area, Keith. It's like you could see the flow, you could see it here, and then you could see the water flowing through here and then just kind of disappearing.
So the pipe, so there could be like I said, it could be a permeation in the pipe, and it's found its way into that, which you can't see because whether it's under some muck or whatever.
Right.
But if he looks in the catch basin and the water is coming out of the pipe, like from the invert of the pipe, that would mean that there's something going on over here by this white thing that's bypassing his trap.
Correct.
So to speak. If it's coming in from the catch basin from around the outside of the pipe, underneath the pipe against the wall of the catch basin, then he's got a problem underneath the whole entire driveway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Follow what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, in the pipe or it's out of the pipe.
So for him to do the investigation right now, he needs to do an agent approval to do the investigation?
I don't think he needs any approval to take a catch basin up and look inside and
Or,
try to
or this
strain a piece
pipe,
of pipe.
or,
Yeah, but if
I
it,
mean,
if it came to something else, like where he had to do some digging, or he wanted to line it, or anything else, that would be,
that would then be, that's why I'm asking. So
yeah.
so we don't have any issues with him doing the investigative work. And then depending upon what that shows, for him to do enhancement around the pond with plantings and stuff, we'll let him do it as an agent approval? Is that what the consensus was?
Well, the plantings need some kind of oversight, because otherwise he could plant all kinds of lovely
Well,
invasive.
he would have to submit to us, he would have to submit to us what the plants would be anyway. Even as an agent approval, I would want a full, I want a plan.
Mhm.
Give me the plants, give me the sizes, give me, that sort of thing.
My only concern with just allowing the pipe to be investigated is that you can pull the cap off and you can look, and that's one kind of investigation, or you can bring in a small backhoe and dig up the whole thing, and that we would want to have some kind of oversight on. So I'm wondering where could we?
That's why I'm asking.
That's a repair. Bringing a machine on would be a repair. He doesn't need a machine to do what I just suggested he do to figure out what the problem is.
Well,
and I mean, this is a low
part of it, though, right? To do that.
Pardon?
What's
You have
that?
to uncover part of the pipe to see where it could be leaking.
Just the end. That fitting,
Just
we're
the-
seeing majority of that fitting right there in the picture.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you were going beyond that or not, so.
No.
Now, let me ask, I want to throw an idea out there too. So this guy's going to invest this time into making this nice. Would it behoove him, I guess, to actually try to get it as a legitimate wetlands to protect it in the future? Like, could he do that?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a low spot, and obviously it's acting as a wetland, but we don't have it delineated on any maps. Even our topo map, you can kind of see that it's kind of a hole, but that's the extent of it. But you could see in that GIS picture I put up that it had water in it. It holds water.
If he's going to put regulated wetlands plants in there, he's now creating basically a wetlands.
Yeah, he likes the pond.
What happens down the line then? Someone else buys the property. It's not considered a wetlands, and they want to, drain it or take those plants out, put something else.
Yeah, they want to pipe it because they don't want that in their front yard, right?
And we're not going to. What?
It might already be a wetland because it has had water in it so much. It might have created its own poorly drained soil. The chances are, if he had it delineated by a soil scientist, it already might be one.
It does look like it might be one. Yeah.
I'm thinking about along the lines of the guy wants to voluntarily offer it as wetlands and not have. I don't want the guy to have to go and spend money on a soil scientist, right? It's a pre-existing thing. He's trying to enhance it. But if he wanted to do something to protect it, to legitimize it as a wetlands after he spends all this money enhancing it, or time, whether it's just time.
Maybe we could have him put some sort of marking around it or something.
I was thinking the marking, but then down the line, the marking wouldn't really mean anything, because if it's not attached to a piece of paper, you can go throw markers all over the place and restrict people. Like, you know what I mean? It's it would have to be somewhere, I think, documented.
Well, if he doesn't have the right wetland soils there, wetland plants aren't going to grow. You got to have the right soils, or because otherwise it's upland soils, and then that's a different kind of plant. And
One thing he did mention is his neighbor uphill from him is a landscape architect, so has offered to help him with that sort of thing too.
That's good. Okay.
So, I mean, he did tell me that, him and his neighbor had some issues because of drainage, and they've worked it out, and now I guess they're very good friends, and they're working at,
Awesome.
So.
All right.
Okay. I just wanted to throw all those concepts out.
Okay. But that's why I needed to talk to you on this one, because this is not a clear cut thing.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
Yeah, it can be a fun one.
Like, this is like,
will you let me do this? And I'm like, if you're willing to create and enhance an area into wetlands, by yes, they're gonna like it.
Yeah.
So,
All
okay.
right, so the next is IWC 20-2015-07, 16 Sandbar Road, modification of approved single-family home and site improvements.
Okay, and I don't need to be sharing my screen anymore because now we've got somebody on who's going to be discussing this. So you're not seeing my screen anymore, correct?
I still do.
Ugh, okay, hold on. Better?
There you go.
Okay. Now I just got to find you guys again. Okay, so Don Smith should be on for the next one.
Yep, we see
Good.
him.
There he
Good
is, okay.
evening. I'm Donald Smith Jr., professional engineer with an office at 56 Greenwood Circle in Seymour. With me also here tonight is Anthony and Maria Esposito. They are the owners of the property at 16 Sandbar Road. And if you want, I think I can share my screen maybe.
Donna, are you going to let him share? Whoops, I lost everybody.
Do you see it now, Don? You should be, I made you the presenter.
And what would that be? Just the screen with the share screen? Yeah, it's
Yeah, if you hit your share screen button, which is usually on the bottom four.
yeah, it's still gray, and unfortunately, I haven't used GoToMeeting before, and
Here.
it's trying to get into my.
Do you want me to try with what I might have?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry
hold
about
on.
that.
No, let's hopefully let's see if it's going to work for me now. I want to get that out. I want to share my screen. Okay, so as-built scan, would that be good?
Sure.
Can you see that? Whoops, can everybody see my screen?
It's pretty small.
Yeah, it's really
How's that?
small.
It's small?
Yeah, like you're not zoomed in onto the meat and potatoes
On my
of the plant.
screen, on my screen, it's the whole thing.
Okay. If you look to one side, you'll see, if you move your mouse on your own screens, everyone, you'll see an icon pop up where you can zoom in. There's a plus and minus sign.
Yeah, but then you can't adjust the height of the screen, so you can zoom out of what you want to look at, right?
Yeah, you should be able to move it around.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, so you have control of your own view.
gotcha.
And how do you do that again? I'm sorry.
If you move your mouse, the little black box comes up with a little camera, a plus sign, percentage, a minus. You move your mouse on your own screen.
Nope, I'm not seeing that.
Well, all the commissioners can see this, correct?
Well, this is a, let me try and work our way through it. This is a 34-acre parcel with frontage on Sandbar Road. The back edge of this parcel goes all the way up and abuts Monroe, town of Monroe property, I believe Webb Mountain. The power line goes through and bisects this parcel. So this is a 34-acre parcel that's good for a single family house. There is no subdivision potential for this property. Back in July of 2015, this commission had approved a site plan for a single family house and driveway coming in off of Sandbar Road. The plan included 1,570 square feet of direct wetlands impacts. Again, it was approved in 2015. There was a 2-year extension granted last July, and I believe that the town has an $11,000 bond on the property. In November of 2019, we're nearing completion of construction and submitted an as-built drawing of the property and the composite, the red line composite. I guess unfortunately, I'm not sure really what happened, but on mid-October of 2020, the applicant received comments from engineering staff from back in January when he did a site inspection, which pointed out some variations from the approved plan, some incomplete work, and some poorly completed work. Basically, the applicant's, property owner's intention is, they're still kind of active, but they want to get the outstanding items addressed and completed, and they're looking forward to trying to get this property all cleaned up and wrapped up, this year before the end of this planting season. The issues that Conrad had pointed out on the driveway is that essentially the driveway was not quite constructed where it was originally proposed. In fact, it was pushed probably between 3 to 6 to maybe 12 feet to the south, so further away from the regulated area and closer to the neighbor. Unfortunately, in doing that, we did encroach over onto the neighbor's property. So the property owner is in discussions with that neighbor about slope easements and slope rights to allow the embankment for the driveway to remain as it is. And the other kind of point that Conrad pointed out was that the elevation of the driveway was between 2 and 3 feet higher than what was originally proposed. And originally the driveway had a, I want to say, we were trying to follow grade. We had a 10% grade. We brought it down and only to come back up again to get to the house. And when the applicant was, grading the driveway, filling the driveway, they really didn't like where it was laid out. We had the surveyor there to lay it out. They really didn't like the way it was laid out and the kinks that were in it, and they kind of wanted a straight in driveway to the house. So they altered the alignment a little bit and raised it a little bit to present a more, I guess, appealing entrance to the property. There was also a rain garden that was part of the original approval. We were required to have a biologist, comment on that rain garden, which had not been done. But we did have the biologist out the end of last year, and that report was also submitted with our memo. So there's Some of the plantings that were put in did survive. Some of them are not still there. They died off. So the intention would be to complete that rain garden and add the additional plantings to the rain garden per the original approval. So Anthony and Maria are here. I don't know if they want to say anything before you.
Don, can I interject a little bit?
Sure.
The main reason, I mean, yes, the driveway changed and everything, but one of the main reasons and why, is here is a second culvert was added. So the commission had only approved one culvert and two have been added. So the impact to the wetlands that was approved, I guess, back when this was originally approved, which is well before me, these have been changes. So because these changes are significant to what had been approved in 2015, I know that there's a CO that's going around as well. I think the commission needs to have some input into this because it is different than what had been approved by them 5 or 6 years ago now, I guess.
Understood. The second culvert, was really a function of construction. And as they were trying to build the driveway, they had put in an initial pipe to try and be able to get across and get some fill in and control the water. And then that pipe was further to the east than the one that had been proposed. And then as they, were building the driveway, then they did put the second pipe in. So it was really, kind of a function of the construction, why the second pipe got put in. That wetland area there was, kind of strange. You could see on the south end of the wetlands, there was, two peaks, two distinct points and peaks there. We had put the culvert in one of those, and you can see from the as-built, the second culvert was pretty much added right at that second peak. So, the culvert was merely there to convey runoff from one side of the driveway to the other. So, I think that the second pipe that was installed was just an 8-inch pipe. I don't even think it was a 15-inch pipe.
Yeah, I don't know offhand. I just know that these are changes that differed from what was approved. And so when I go to do a final inspection for CO, they would be things that would be discussed. And I'm trying to help everybody so we could all achieve the same thing.
Yep, I understand.
Was that Denise from you?
Yeah.
I want to ask Mr. Smith for some clarifications, or whoever. This property is in Monroe?
Yes.
The whole property? Okay. This is a new house? New construction?
Yes.
This
Okay,
was
so-
we're back in 2015. This was an application for new construction, yes.
Okay, so help me out with trying to understand the change to the driveway elevation. You said it went up by 3 feet. Now, it can't go up by 3 feet at the road, and it can't go up by 3 feet at the garage unless the house elevation was raised 3 feet. So where do we have? So go ahead.
From Sandbar Road was, up higher, and as you came into the property, you came down only to come back up again at the house.
Gotcha.
So the low point, the belly of the driveway, the low point of the driveway itself is what was raised.
It's raised. So right about where the culverts are, I would assume is the low spot.
The culverts, the low spot was a little bit further to the east of those two culverts, yes.
Okay.
So, right, the two ends stayed the same, and instead of going all the way down and coming up, they didn't quite go down as far. So that the driveway, the proposed grade, coming in off of Sandbar, originally it was a 10% grade, and the as-built showing it somewhere between 7 and 8%. So that flattened out, that grade flattened out. The driveway is still, one of the conditions of the wetlands approval was a paved driveway that is still going to be installed and is required under the driveway ordinance due to the grade of the driveway.
No, that's not. We had some pictures. I thought maybe some pictures might help, but I'm trying to find the right one for what you guys are talking about. So this is actually, I'm not far enough up, am I yet?
That's all in the back.
Yeah,
acre.
that's wrong direction.
There was a question about that pond, that wetland area, that pond that you had just scrolled past. And that is that is pretty much central to the property. We plotted that out, the approximate location. We plotted on the original site development plan, and there are no wetlands within a couple of 100 feet of that location. So that was I want to say a farm pond.
This kind of helps show a little bit of what you're talking about. That's why I knew there was a photo that had been taken to kind of give you that idea. So you could see where he's talking. If that's the front of that's the street coming down
and then back up again, right?
And then back up again, because this is where the house is.
Okay. My other question is, this driveway access to the easement to the power line? It kind of looks like that on that plan.
Anthony, no, I don't believe they use that, but Anthony would be the better one to explain that.
If you're talking about the power company, they have their own access further down Bar Road.
Yeah, on the plan though, it looks like your driveway spins off across the house, I guess, and follows down to the easement. I mean, it just looks like, a nice path on the plan. So
yeah, for us, yes, and yes, that's the way it was originally.
Okay.
Look at the original driveway coming onto the unimproved property. There was a pathway that went all the way back up to the power line.
So that's no longer going to be their access.
No, the power company has their own access further down Sandbar Road.
Gotcha. So there is no path. There is no path down to the easement.
No, only for us, not for the power company or.
Oh, it's yours. You have it, but it's only for your use.
Right. That's how we do it.
Okay. I was just my question was if it was like some kind of access easement, if they had any, if they had any requirements that would.
No, when they're working on the power lines, we give them access. We let them use this driveway because it's easy to access a certain part of it, but they have their own around the back of Sandbar Road.
Okay. All right.
This property, prior to the Espositos purchasing this property, this had been developed. There was some kind of a driveway on it and an old stone foundation. So, the stone foundation had been removed as part of the project, and that's basically where the rain garden that had been proposed was installed as part of that, removing that stone foundation. So this is the standing on the driveway looking south, looking upstream, and you can see, that the two holes there, the one on the right with the pink flag and the one on the left. Yep, those are the inlets to the two culverts. There was really no intermittent stream. It's just really surface runoff that's coming down at the driveway. And again, during construction, there was issues with, surface water. And as they were trying to build it, they were trying to control the water and build the driveway. And, it ended up needing a second pipe in order to help them control the water really during construction as they were building it. So
as you said, Don, that was really just for during construction. Because I don't know, the reason why we left it, I'm not really sure, but during construction it was very functional.
Yeah. You know, there you can kind of see the driveway rather than it going down and back up again. That's was pretty much put on a flatter grade.
Yeah, I'm trying to give them a little bit of a feel for what's going on. That's why I'm going through some of the photos a little bit. And that's the rain garden, if I'm not mistaken.
Right there on the left. Yep.
Yeah.
That
The
was.
two pipes are in front of it over here.
What's the date on that picture?
January of 2020. It's just what I grabbed this morning.
Okay.
There may be some more recent ones, but this is all I could find.
Yeah, no, that would correspond with staff's engineering.
When they were out there, correct. Like I said, I only wanted to try to get the changes clarified with you and Wetlands, so that when the CO inspection goes and I have to sign off for Wetlands, I have a better feeling for their take on this.
Yeah, a lot of the debris and the tree fells there have been cleaned up. Those were just dead rotten trees that had fallen, not part of the tree clearing. But a lot of the construction debris and things in the back that were part of these pictures has been cleaned up at this point.
Right. This is a year ago, almost just over a year ago. So.
Yeah, a year.
The two biggest deviations from the approval, if you can look in the driveway, we had a 3-foot dip in the driveway, which right now it's just a gentle slope down to the house, down and back up a little bit to the house. It's just a much better approach and a much safer approach than having a big dip in the middle of it. That was one deviation, and right now, as you can see, it's not paved. This is just the way we graded it for now. And it had a kink in it, which it was really, really strange to have a kink in the driveway. So we just made a straight driveway, and those are the two biggest deviations from the approval. And it's just a little bit wider. It's more safer and more, it's a better approach when it's a little bit wider because the slope's on both ends. It seems to work much better for the house. That's the only reason why we did it this way. We would like to leave it this way. That's the only reason why we would like to leave it this way. It's just a much better approach to the home.
Okay, to the applicants, either, what's the likelihood of you resolving the over the line discrepancy? Because
I don't see any issue with that at all. Matter of fact, my attorney's working on a document to work out with me and the neighbor.
Okay. So
I haven't approached them yet because I wanted to see what the feel was from the commission. I would love to leave the driveway this way, and it just works a lot better for us. If it's okay, I'll definitely approach them, and I don't see that being a stumbling block, so I would take care of that with my attorney.
oh, you couldn't keep it at this elevation if you don't get the whatever agreement from the neighbor, because you would have hit the grading.
We can. I was looking at that today. I could move the pipe back. It's just a culvert that's on there.
No, there's some of the fill as well, Anthony. So it's, yeah, you need.
That's
what I mean. The driveway is right at the property line now. So there's, like you said, Don, there's some grading over on the neighbors as well.
Then there's the grading setback.
Don, me and you can look at that, maybe push it back and not affect them at all.
Oh,
that's what I'm getting at. I would do that with you, Don. We could look at it and see if we could push it back and not affect the neighbor at all. I don't see the neighbor being a hindrance.
All right, I'm going to go through and ask the commissioners one by one if they have any thoughts on this situation. Start with Commissioner Spence.
I'm a little confused. You said you made the driveway wider. Does that mean there was more fill?
Does that mean
obviously with the increase in elevation, there was more fill put in. The limit of disturbance on the north side is inside. We did not fill any more wetlands than were originally proposed or approved. The limit of disturbance on the north side of the driveway is southerly of the limit that was approved as part of the permit.
Okay, so the driveway is wider though than it was originally approved. I'm just trying to, because I don't have the plan in front of me anymore, and I'm trying to visualize the plan as well as the pictures and trying to put it all together.
Let me help you out. Let me help
Sure.
out. So what's the grading? What was the grading that was approved for the shoulder of the driveway?
It was a 10-foot wide driveway with 2-foot shoulder, a 10-foot wide
What's the
paved
grade?
driveway.
What was the grade? What was the grade? Percentage of grade, or 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 5?
The side slopes, I believe, were 1 on 3.
1 on 3. So basically, Lois, the footprint of this driveway grew by 18 feet. Came up 3, and they needed, right? Did I say that right? 9 feet on either side to have a 1 to 3 slope on either side. So it grew by 18 feet in width. The base of it.
Okay, so there was direct wetland impact to start with, but are you saying that there was no more wetland impact than was approved?
Yes.
Or was there more fill put in that ended up in the wetlands?
There was no more wetlands impact than what was originally approved. I think that's, unfortunately, I can't share because I do have the red line.
Yeah, I don't have that, unfortunately.
With the superimposed limits for the limit of grading for the, originally versus proposed, it's does not extend out as far. So there was less wetlands filling on the north side of the driveway.
Even though there's 2 pipes, there's still less wetlands filling?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't seem to have the red line, so. Oh, yes, I did. Okay.
I guess I'm just a little confused because I don't really know where the wetlands, I mean, I saw some of the delineation lines on the plan, but the pictures don't seem to indicate, except for this, I assume it's the Great Rain Garden that was kind of a square. I didn't see anything that was apparent wetlands to me. So I'm just trying to visualize the whole thing, and I'm coming up with a big goose egg. So,
I really apologize for not being able to share my screen. And
I wouldn't be able to either if I could figure it out.
I don't know if you want to schedule a site walk. Denise, you're saying you don't have this red line composite plan. I can email that.
I just found something else in the file. Is it December 20th, 2019? I have 2 plans here. One has some red, but it's a site development plan. Is that the plan that you had as a red line?
This is red lines added by Lewis Associates for as-built reference with Tracy Lewis, 11/19/19.
Yeah, see, I don't seem to have that. I've got a plan here that looks possibly like a composite, but it's a site development plan, and we received it on December 20th, 2019.
Right to the left of my title block. Is there certification from Tracy?
Oh, red lines added by Louis Tracy for as-built. Okay, we do have revised 11/19.
Right.
Okay, we do have it.
So,
I could definitely scan this and send it to the commission too. Well, not right now.
I can send you the electronic one, so you don't have to scan it. So,
But to answer Lois's question, no, the two pipes kind of, a little bit of the stonework might be a little bit outside of the area, but no, I don't see it really affecting it.
All right, so do you see the northernmost red line there?
Here, let's see. Whoops. Wait, let me go back to my camera.
Yeah,
Can people see? I
yeah,
can't see what I'm,
not really, not enough. But you know, there is a red line that is the toe of slope on the north side of the driveway. And it's, you know, it's about 5 feet south of the previous toe of slope. So we, although the driveway came up, it did not move any further to the north, which
that
was
help?
where there's more wetlands. It did move further to the south and actually extended somewhat over the property line, you know, to the south. But you know, the wetland was 1,570 square feet of wetlands filling for the driveway before. It's I'm going to say slightly less with the reconstructed
Can't
driveway.
see. I'm really trying to help.
Down a little bit, down right there. Yep, right there. Okay, so up just a little bit, up there. Okay, so right there you can see the red line that goes from, you know, from left to right. The solid red line. It's just south. You know, the black is original. Black was what was approved. The red is as built. And that first line, as you're coming down from the north, that, you know, it's to the south of the limit of disturbance line and all of that grading. So, you know, there was less fill put in the wetlands on the north side.
Okay. I started paneling the commission, right? And I think I was at Lois, correct? And were you done with questions?
I believe so. Am I correct in thinking that we're being asked for a blessing on the second pipe? Or is there more involved to what's expected?
What I'm asking is when the CO has to be signed off, I have to sign it off based on what was approved by the commission. And what was approved by the commission, it's different from what is out there right now. So some changes were made.
Let me throw out a suggestion. If the wetlands if the wetlands line that was supposed to be like undisturbed line is in fact not changed,
yep.
Why don't we just follow whatever engineering is going to do on this?
Okay, and like I said, we sign off in terms of the wetlands. So what's the disturbance in the wetlands, if you're fine with it, then when it comes to the time, I could sign off on it.
Yeah, if there was no disturbance in the wetlands, right?
Correct.
And engineering allows this to go through.
Right, engineering, you know, would be looking at in terms of the height and stuff. I'm looking at, you know, there's two pipes, the driveway's changed, you know, little things like that. It's different than what we had approved, but if we're fine with it, that's great.
Yeah, I don't see how having an extra pipe really does anything.
Okay, so how about I make a motion that we approve the second pipe as presented by Denise.
So wait, I'm sorry, repeat that again.
I make a motion that we approve the plans with the second pipe installed.
Okay.
Does that cover it, Denise?
I don't know.
That covers that. I mean, the driveway elevation changed, so there's that little change that's in the upland review area.
Well, let me ask you this. Why couldn't we wait to figure out, well, has engineering determined this?
No, this is still, the work is still being finished, but a CO had been submitted.
Well, he has to get a CO. He has to get signed off by engineering.
Yeah,
Just to
but
sign
engineering,
off on the
engineering
grading.
signs off after wetlands. It goes
We can't-
health, there's a process and
I know,
engineering
I've been there.
after us, yes.
You can't just kind of flip it over into their box and then when it's done, grab it, put it back into your box.
I wish it was that easy, Keith.
I just
Really
think
do.
that if engineering doesn't approve it or let it go that way, now if they have to rework it, now they're working within, now they're doing more work in the wetlands area and it could change the outcome. So we're going to approve something right now, but this might not make it to the next phase.
Well, you could say you're approving it in concept based on, approval from zoning and engineering, because zoning and engineering have to approve it too.
Conditional approval.
There you go.
I think the way that Conrad had written his report was, there was some engineering issues, there were some zoning issues,
Yep,
and there were some wetlands issues.
you're right.
And in particular, the wetland issue was the driveway was not quite where it was originally designed in terms of height, width, or location.
Right.
I'm also looking at
saying was that
sorry.
he just pointed it out. He didn't say whether it was good, bad, or different. He pointed out it wasn't built according to plan. You
Right.
need to go back to see wetlands and get that resolved.
And that's why I told them to come and let's get it moving now.
So the rain garden has been built because the picture on my screen right now looks just like a puddle.
Yes, that's a year old, don't forget.
Yeah, I knew that. Just want to make sure that right. So we're not just trying to put a blessing on the driveway in order for them to finish. So the rain garden is complete.
And they have to monitor for 3 years anyway, the rain garden. So.
So I guess we could say what Lo said, we accept the conditions, as presented or as built, accept the as built, provided that if P&Z doesn't approve the changes, or engineering rather, that they have to come back to us and keep us in the loop of what's happening, what changes. So we could do that. Does that work? You think that'll work?
Yeah.
All right, Lois, why don't you do another one?
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we make a conditional approval on the changes to the plan, on the changes in the as-built. Because there is no further encroachment into wetlands and there doesn't appear to be any effect, long-term effect on the wetlands. And the condition would be that if it does not go through engineering and whatever other channels it needs to, it would need to come back to wetlands for further investigation. How does that sound?
Sounds good. We have a motion that says all what Lois just said. Anybody want to second it? I saw Ross first, so I'll give it to Commissioner Masterocco for a second. All in favor? All right, motion passed unanimously. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, we're gonna need it.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
We're running out of time, so we got to move things along. So now we're on deliberation session. Deliberation on completed hearings, items from this agenda is determined by the commission. Now, we didn't complete anything tonight, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then so we just have to now go to IWC 2020-09, 200 Monroe Turnpike, expansion of parking lot, lighting, and landscaping. And we have a letter of approval, correct?
You have a draft, yep.
I move that we making an approval of the draft letter, or are we approving the
Yeah,
application?
no, you can say that you approve a motion to approve the draft approval as written. June, did that
Okay.
make sense?
Well, yeah, with none of us making sense.
I
it
know,
did.
I'm sorry.
All right, so I move that we approve the draft approval that was presented by staff as written.
We have a motion, second from Commissioner Gingrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's draft approved. Moving right along. IWC 2020-08, 169 Enterprise Drive, commercial rock processing with parking, septic, grading, and building. Another,
I just want to make a change on that one. I
okay,
know I wrote it. Under note 1D, instead of the way it says, it should be like the other one read, monitoring states as, oh my God. Monitoring status as listed under condition F, standard requirements, item 9 is what should really be there. That's how we should have it written.
okay.
Just
Where
so
is
you know.
On-
It's
on
under
R1D.
section F. It's under
Wrong
condition
section.
F. Yeah, standard conditions, F number 9.
Okay. All right, so I make a motion that we approve the draft approval as amended by Denise.
Okay.
As amended by Denise, that's, otherwise as written.
Motion to accept with one change. A second?
I second it.
Second, Commissioner Gingrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. On to bond release reduction reports. IWC 2018-06, 275 Monroe, Moose Hill Road, rather, request for $16,000 bond release.
And I request, I can't even find my piece of paper, but yes, everything's done.
Okay.
I said it could be released.
Okay.
Why I can't find my paper, I don't know.
What was this? 275.
There was a house that was built and the funny thing, that one had a problem with the driveway as well, and they had to redo the driveway because it was greater than 12%.
And that was the people that did their own little landscape plan in the back, even though our plans.
You got it. And they had to
all
redo
the
it
red lines.
Twice.
I mean, man, rip out a brand new driveway. I seen it done on Judd Road up in, those 3 big houses off of Judd as you cross over 59.
Yeah.
They're big, huge houses up there in Easton. And they
same
built
thing?
the road, and Mr. Nagy wasn't going to have it. It was because it was a shared access to 3 houses.
Oh.
So it was a big road, and it was a lot of work. Okay, anyways.
Follow the plans. Isn't that the whole thing?
Yes, follow the plans. If you got to change your plans, the first call is to your engineer.
Yes.
I'm
You want
So I always do when I got a problem. I call the engineer. It takes the sweat off my back. All right, so we're going to make a motion to approve the bond release.
So moved.
Make a motion to reapprove the bond release.
I'll second it then.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Gingrich, second by Commissioner Spence. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we're doing business.
That's right.
All right. Number 11, time extensions, IWC 2018-01RA1, 98 Enterprise Drive, 90-day time extension requested.
This was the one that we had last time, and I did further research because we weren't fully sure why they were doing a 90-day time extension. It's in front of P&Z, and it's not on their docket until February 12th, I believe. So they didn't want time to run out. So that's why they were asking us for 90 days, so that as they're going through the permit process with planning and zoning, they don't run out of time with us. That was the whole reason why they were doing this.
Is this the one they're putting the second half of the building development on, or is it the one next to it where there's nothing?
No, this is another one that they're doing a second half. We have a couple like that.
Oh, this is Infante?
This is not Infante. Infante, you'll see, is on the agenda next time. This
Next.
is,
I'm just trying to remember. Oh, I know it. This is across the street.
yeah.
Okay, I know which one. All right.
So planning and zoning has been hammered with so many applications. So this just hasn't gotten on their docket until February.
I think that's fair. Not their
Make a
fault.
motion that we give them the 90-day extension.
Got a motion from Commissioner Gingas for an extension. Do a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Massaraco. His hand was first.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So this motion passes unanimously. Section G, IWC agent activity reports. Agent approvals. Denise, you said there is.
I added one, so I'll go ahead and read them.
Yeah.
IA 2021-01, 200 Monroe Turnpike for the construction of a solar carport covering over 23 existing paved parking spaces. IA 2021-02, 478 Fan Hill Road for an installation of a generator and 400-gallon propane tanks. IA 2103, 51 Crescent Place for the removal and replacement of a new garage, as well as removal and rerouting of a driveway. 13 permitted uses as of right. We have IPU 2018-01, Department of Public Works for road repair, replacement, and or general maintenance. We have IPU 2021-01 for 28 Canterbury Lane, which is the removal of 5 diseased dead trees. And that'd be
Okay.
it.
I don't know if it mattered. I don't know if it matters, but when you read out the IAA 2020-02, it sounded like you said 400 gallon instead
No,
of 100
gallon.
I just want to make sure. I don't know if we had to have it, perfect. So
Well, on that same one, when you read it into the record, you read IAA 2020. It's written 2021, but you read it 2021. So I don't know if the written has to.
The written is incorrect. It's 2021.
Okay.
We're in 2021 now, so.
Thank God.
all good. All right. Enforcement deliberation. We didn't finish. Did we finish any of those today?
No.
No.
No, we're good, right?
Okay. Yeah. So none of that applies. So we're into general discussion, minutes of December 9th and 16th, 2020. We probably have enough time to do that. And yeah, so 9th. Start with the 9th.
I move that we accept the minutes of December 9th with some minor changes.
Okay, we have a second. Second by Commissioner Massaraco, and the changes are?
Okay, on page 3 of 9, in the dead center of the page, it says, the Commissioner says, express concern about the proposed impervious liner becoming punctured. That sentence, as the end of that sentence, it should say, pushing the liner back more toward the 64 Cambridge property line.
Oh my gosh. Lois, I'm sorry, what page was that?
Page 3, dead center of the page. Under the first P of approval. I can send this to you later, Donna.
Pushing the liner back.
Right. More toward the 64 Cambridge property line. On page 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs down. It's written the Putatuck River, and it should be the Pequannock River.
It's a good catch.
And the next paragraph, it was just a typo. It's supposed to be swale. It says swell.
It is swell.
It is swell,
Yes.
absolutely. And I believe
That's
that's
swell.
it for those.
Okay.
Yep, that's it for that one.
All right, so we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Minutes are accepted. All right. Minutes of December 16th, 2020.
I have some minor changes, but I haven't finished. I have to go back and actually listen to some of the recording again. So if we
We
could
could
table this till next time, that would be awesome.
table the minutes of December 16th till the next meeting. And now we got Regulation Amendment Committee, we're too late. Public Outreach Committee, still too late. Still, just read off the pending items here. We got 74 Enterprise Drive, IWC 2021-01. We have IWC 2019-05, which is 1380 Monroe Turnpike, and IWV 2019-16, 43 Birdseye Drive, which we know is a probate issue, right?
Yeah, actually, she called and wants to come in front of the commission, and I don't remember if it's next meeting or the meeting after to give us an update. I tried to get the update from her. She wants to come in front of you.
Okay. There's something I want to bring up before we close the meeting, and I don't know how to, I guess there's an issue that was brought up in the hearing, right, from John Kimball about getting responses back, the day before, engineer responses back the day before, or last minute, whatever the case may be, of a hearing. And that obviously, put us all in a real awkward kind of situation. It wasn't, we were getting reprimanded for somebody else, basically. Is there anything we could do about that? Could we send off a letter to kind of like make some other people aware of this condition that was brought to our attention?
I don't know. I do know that there are so many applications that he has been reviewing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many in front of P&Z as well. So I know that he's been doing a lot. So,
Well, yeah, it would make sense. If P&Z
somehow in the shuffle, I don't know.
Yeah. If P&Z is busy, he's obviously going to be busy, but there's also could have been, hey, I didn't get to your thing.
Yeah.
Can you please wait 2 weeks? Still, to fire it off at the last minute, just, it doesn't show a good, it doesn't set a good precedent for the town, the commissions and the staff.
We can let him know that they were that they were not happy with that. I mean,
Yeah.
we can stress that.
Okay, yeah, just, it should be noted. I think it should be, we had gotten a criticism. I think that criticism should end up at least landing on the desk of the appropriate person.
Okay.
And that's really it. All right, so I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close the meeting.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Gingras, second by Commissioner Spence. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
This meeting is closed. What? You can say bye.
Can I say aye?
Aye. Oh, I forgot one thing I wanted to ask, but it doesn't need to be on the record. I realized that when I got all jumbled up during that application, I never went back to the public, but since it's still open, remember I asked for public comment? So it's still open. I didn't like screw anything up, right? I just do it, make sure we do it next time.
Yeah, it's not closed.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 10:46 p.m.